Chapter 878. Following Jiang Tian's order. The Tianqing school's front line shrank again, and all the secular forces entered the Tianqing school's dojos. The dojos such as Mei, Dinsong, Wudong, Tianshan, and Shenong School also entered a state of emergency. All the powerhouses were diligently cultivating, ready to deal with the possible invasion of the hidden sect at any time. Hong Yi led dozens of array formation and refining experts of the refining branch to Huaxia, going back and forth for hundreds of miles to repair or reinforce the great protective array of the various dojos. The Sidoni Scientific Research Institute also set up small Kuelian systems in these dojos to strengthen their attack and defense. At this time, Yi Tianren also received Jiang Tian's summons and came to the central hall of the Tianqing school. He tidied his clothes and kowtowed to Jiang Tian, his face extremely solemn and respectful. Disciple Yi Tianren greets master. Get up. Jiang Tian smiled gently. At this time, he was wearing a plain white robe and his black hair was tied into a ponytail. The few strands of white hair that were produced when he used the time-reversing blade had not completely disappeared and were stuck in his black hair, adding a sense of vicissitudes and profoundness to him. Master. Yi Tianren stood up and bowed respectfully again. Heavenly man, where did you learn the last move of transforming into a sword? Jiang Tian paced in the vast and ventilated hall in wooden clogs. The wooden clogs stepped on the clean black marble floor, making crisp and pleasant sounds. In the early years of the Republic, I was just a scholar living in seclusion in the Lilikang area of Yanjing. I often went to the Lilikang area to search for treasures, and I found this ancient scroll in a small stall. Yi Tianren took out a yellow craft scroll and handed it to Jiang Tian with both hands. Jiang Tian was not interested and shook his head. I thought you had discovered some ancient cultivation ruins, but here I am. I didn't expect to find it in an antique stall in the downtown area. You're too lucky. The big explosion in the sky above Yanjing should have been caused by the hidden sect's powerhouses being killed by master. Yi Tianren asked. It's the people of the Tianqing Palace. Jiang Tian said lightly. It's the Tianqing Palace. Yi Tianren heard this, his body shook, and his expression changed drastically. When I was studying in Kunlun Mountain, I once read ancient books. I found that the Tianqing Palace is indeed a sect. Is a large sect, comparable to some large sects in the ancient times. But the people of the sects will absolutely not allow anyone in the secular world. I'm afraid they came this time. They are here. Why do you think they have bad intentions? Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows and asked. Master, the 9 elders of Hongmeng were powerhouses who wanted to ascend to the top of the Tianqing realm. However, when they were breaking through to the Tianqing realm, they were crippled by the heavenly punishment divine curse sent by the powerhouses of the ruins of immortality and the sects. Yi Tianren showed a sorrowful expression and said, When I was traveling around the world, I once learned from the 9 elders of Hongmeng for 3 years. The pig slaughtering knife technique and many other cultivation methods that I used were taught by them. The senior who taught the pig slaughtering knife technique was from the late Ming dynasty. When he broke through to the Tianqing realm, he once waved his knife at the sky, but he was struck down by a thunderbolt and his arms were crippled. After witnessing the 9 elders of primordial world's formidable cultivation, their extraordinary comprehension ability and natural endowment, as well as their miserable state in their later years, this junior was filled with anger and frustration, and it stimulated this junior to gradually comprehend the god-slaying sword technique. Yi Tianren showed a look of anger and said hatefully, Those people of the sects consider themselves immortals. They are high and mighty and look down on the world. They never put the mortals in their eyes. They also don't allow us to set foot in the ruins of immortality and the sects. On what basis? Yes. They are not that great. Jiang Tian nodded and said mockingly, When I met the Taoist of Qingxian, he was very arrogant and kept calling me an abandoned ant in the wasteland. However, he was still killed by my sword. The key is that not only do these people of the sects not allow the mortals to enter the ruins of immortality and the sects, they also intend to encroach on the earth. They killed the Tianqing realm powerhouses so that the earth could rest and recuperate. It seems that they treat the earth as their own ranch. Yi Tianren said hatefully, "Now, the 9 elders of Hongmeng have lost their ambition to ascend to the heavens. However, they know the existence of the sects and the ruins of immortality. They take turns to stop their blood flow and stop their lifespan. Every time, a few of them stay awake. Once the powerhouses of the ruins of immortality and the sects invade, they will come out of the mountains and fight to the death." Jiang Tian smiled lazily and said in a relaxed manner, "The 9 elders of primordial chaos can be considered to be dragons and phoenixes amongst men, but in my eyes, they're too cowardly and useless." Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows and asked, "Why should we wait for them to attack? We can take the initiative to kill them. The earth is just a wasteland. They want to encroach on it. Their place is a paradise. There is no reason for us to be polite." Yi Tianren was first shocked when he heard this. Then he quickly reacted and trembled with excitement. He clapped his hands and exclaimed, "Master, you are right. What Master said makes sense. Junior thinks so too." Even though Junior has been called a lunatic by the 9 Grand Mist Elders, Junior is still determined to succeed. If we destroy the ruins of immortality, we will be gods. The people of the sects were too powerful. In the Middle Ages, their status was extremely respected. They roamed the world and were invincible. Even the semi-hidden sects on Earth were not in their eyes. The Mount Shu sword sect originally had 2 branches, Qingqing and Amei. It was said that at the end of the Ming dynasty, the Qingqing sword sect once provoked a certain sects. The sects only sent 1 person, and in one night, they killed more than 10 immortals and earth immortals. The Qingqing sword sect was destroyed. It was during the Middle Ages. The semi-hidden sects at that time were much more powerful than the ones now. However, the cultivation world on Earth was still suppressed by the sects. They were like ants crawling on the ground, unable to breathe. Since then, no one dared to provoke the people of the sects, let alone seize their dimensional world dojo. As the largest small world of the sects, the ruins of immortality was also known as the Heavenly Court. It was said that it was the place where the gods lived. It was the home of the gods. The 9 elders of Hongmeng, each one of them was a stunning existence that had shocked the world. Many of them were state advisors and sect leaders. However, after being attacked by the sects and the ruins of immortality, they were full of fear and wariness. When Yi Tianren was comprehending the deity-slaying sword technique, they did not have much confidence in Yi Tianren. They did not want Yi Tianren to take the risk and pour cold water on them every day. This made Yi Tianren very depressed. At this time, Jiang Tian's words really made Celestial Ye's heart happy, and he was full of worship. The key was that Jiang Tian came from a super civilization on the other side of the universe, and he shared the same fate as the human race. Yi Tianren suddenly realized that a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity had arrived. A chance for an ant to rise from the wasteland and kick the people of the sects of immortality off the throne and occupy it. An opportunity to rewrite the fate of mankind had arrived. An opportunity to let ordinary people ascend to a higher level of life and turn Earth into a cultivation planet, dominating the universe. The ruins of immortality is a little far after all. Jiang Tian paced slowly with his hands behind his back. He sighed with a deep gaze. "I haven't found the path to the ruins of immortality yet. I still lack a few pieces of the map. Indeed, the ruins of immortality are too mysterious." Yi Tianren's face darkened and he smiled bitterly. "I and the 9 elders of Hongmeng have searched for many years, but we still only know bits and pieces. However, I already know the path to the heavenly star small world." Jiang Tian's spirit was lifted. He took out a few long and narrow jade talismans that looked like keys. His eyes flickered with uncertainty as he said coldly, "These are actually a kind of array pestle for a teleportation array. I got them from the Taoist of Qingxian. As long as we insert the array pestle into the teleportation array on Earth, we can break open the dimensional channel and enter the heavenly star small world." "Great! That's great! I'm willing to follow Master and kill them to my heart's content." Yi Tianren was excited and murderous. He then bowed and asked, "But Master, where is the teleportation array?" Jiang Tian gave him a location. Yi Tianren was stunned. He couldn't believe it and said, "How could it be overseas?" Jiang Tian searched the memories of immortal Master Yuan and the Taoist of Qin Xian. The teleportation array to the Heavenly Star Palace's dimensional space was in a nunnery in the Heavenly Valley of Malaysia. Therefore Yuan was shocked and surprised. He thought it should be in the many famous mountains and rivers of Huaxia. But thinking about it carefully, it was not strange. According to the information that had been obtained, these dimensional spaces with the ruins of immortality as the core were likely to be created by the hands of the ancient powerful cultivators. At that time, the ancient powerful cultivators had probably surpassed the golden core and reached the soul formation stage. They could travel thousands of miles freely on ancient Earth and had the power to divide land into rivers and move mountains and fill seas. It was not strange that they had been to Malaysia. Malaysia was not far from Singapore. Jiang Tian took a private plane and rushed to Singapore with Yi Tianren and the old dragon who had turned into a big black dog. On the way, Jiang Tian taught Yi Tianren some basic cultivation methods. Immediately, Yi Tianren was enlightened. It was as if the door to a new world had been opened. He was extremely grateful to Jiang Tian. When Jiang Tian and the others arrived at the Star Continent, immediately, the Prime Minister of Singapore, Li Xianlong, his son Li Fifan, Master Hong Chan, and other overlords of the Chinese Society of Singapore went to the airport to welcome them. "Master Kong, my unfilial son offended Master Kong a few days ago. This old man apologizes to you." Li Xianlong kowtowed to Jiang Tian in front of everyone. He was trembling and his face was full of uneasiness. "The ignorant are innocent. Get up," Jiang Tian said lightly. That night, Li Xianlong hosted a banquet to entertain Jiang Tian and Yi Tianren. The big black dog also followed. During the banquet, the guests and the host enjoyed themselves. However, when they learned that Jiang Tian and the others were going to the Heavenly Temple in the Heavenly Valley, Li Xianlong and the others suddenly looked strange and said in surprise, "Master Kong is going there." Chapter 879. "But, do you know about this place?" Jiang Tian asked in surprise. "The Tongtian nunnery is so mysterious," Master Hong Chan said with a serious face. "It is said that there are magical medicines there that can make people immortal. Moreover, the divine nuns in the nunnery drink the wind and drink the dew. Even if they are 100 years old, they still look young." He heaved a sigh. However, the Taoists in the nunnery seem to think highly of themselves. They focus on cultivation and never interact with people from the secular world. Otherwise, with their strength, if they wanted to fight for power in the secular world, how could Wang Chongyan have the chance to control Singapore? "That's right." Li Xianlong smiled awkwardly. 10 years ago, I was already the Deputy Prime Minister of Singapore. I once wanted to meet the deity of Singapore with the Prime Minister of Malaysia to be enlightened. However, I was slapped by the little Taoist nun who was guarding the door. She even killed a few of my bodyguards. However, the Tongtian nunnery is the guardian of Malaysia. Even the Prime Minister of Malaysia didn't dare to offend it. He even knelt down and kowtowed to apologize. They didn't even dare to speak for me. I had no choice but to swallow my anger. It was the biggest humiliation of my life. I have never talked about it in public. Master Hongchan was also there at that time. "That's right. I think the little Taoist nun is only a teenager, but she should be at the transcendent state or even half a step away from the immortal state." After Master Hongchan said that, a deadly silence fell over the area. Everyone's face turned pale as they widened their eyes in disbelief. The Tongtian nunnery had reached the transcendent state or even the immortal state in her teens. The Tongtian nunnery is just a branch of the Starry Sky Palace. Jiang Tian nodded calmly. He didn't find it strange at all. The Tongtian nunnery was like a relay station for the Starry Sky Palace, but it was already a part of the Starry Sky Palace. There were over 100 Earth-level deities and human-level deities in the Starry Sky Palace, so it was not surprising that the nuns there had reached the transcendent state or the immortal state. "Grandmaster Jiang, you must be extremely careful on this trip," Li Fifan said excitedly. "I have been to the Tongtian nunnery several times. It's amazing. I heard that they have connections with aliens." I heard that there were aliens who descended from the sky in a flying saucer. 10,000 streaks of lightning were released, scorching a large part of the mountain forest, and the sound was heard for several li. This child, what nonsense are you spouting? Li Xianlong glared at his son, feeling that he was making a fool of himself. What he said might be true. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and sipped his tea. The so-called flying saucer should be a flying device that could break through the void. It was really similar to a flying saucer. What? Are there really aliens? Everyone's expression changed drastically as they were shocked. However, my target this time isn't the sky-penetrating nunnery, but the starry sky palace behind it. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and explained his intentions. Oh, Mother! Master Kong, are you going to fight aliens? Is this Star Wars? Isn't that too awesome? Can you take me there? Li Fifan was shocked, and he was full of worship. What can you do there? To be cannon fodder? Li Xianlong was so angry that he wanted to kick him. Every battle Master Kong fought was extremely dangerous and earth-shattering. This time, it would be even more dangerous. However, Jiang Tian did ask Li Fifan to accompany him. He didn't ask him to go to the starry sky palace with him. The space-time wind would tear him into pieces in an instant. Jiang Tian only asked him to accompany him to the sky-penetrating nunnery. He had explored the sky-penetrating valley more than once, so he knew the way. Li Xianlong's family was one of the top Chinese families in Singapore. They had connections in both politics and business. Li Fifan was born in a wealthy family. His grandfather and father had served as the prime minister of a country. He was a real prince in Singapore, and he was very popular in Southeast Asia. After they arrived at Penang in Malaysia on Li Fifan's private jet, a few Malaysian nobles immediately came to pick them up and provide them with a car. 2 days later, 2 off-road vehicles stopped at the entrance of a valley shrouded in clouds and fog. That's not right. Why are there so many people here? Li Fifan was surprised. At this time, hundreds of people were walking toward the sky-penetrating nunnery on the mountain road in the valley. They seemed to be rich and powerful. The sky-penetrating valley had been deserted for a long time. It was the first time that it was so crowded. Brother Fifan, long time no see. Why are you here? Jiang Tian was about to go in when he suddenly heard someone greeting him from behind. He turned around and saw a luxurious motorcade parked on the side of the road. There were BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and several limousines with the symbol of the Malaysian royal family on them. Inside the carriage, there were also many beautiful and tactful female servants and attendants. A dozen armed special forces of the royal family patrolled the motorcade. Their eyes were as sharp as eagles and their bodies were as tall as mountains. Although they didn't have any internal force or true qi, they had undergone professional training. Their movements were neat and tidy. The one who spoke was a well-dressed young man. Commander Zhao. I want to enter the sky-penetrating nunnery and meet the old immortals. Please do me a favor and introduce me to them. Lu Fifan smiled. He didn't expect to meet an old friend. This young man was Commander Zhao. He was a member of the Malaysian royal family and had the title of commander. He and Li Fifan called each other brothers and were very close. There were 9 royal families in Malaysia. The head of the royal family was called Raja or Sultan, which meant king. The head of state selected from the 9 royal families was called Grand Duke. They belonged to the privileged class in Malaysia. Anyone who offended them would be severely punished. Don't worry. It will work this time. Commander Zhao whispered mysteriously. The 3 people I'm following are very powerful. They have a good relationship with the sky-penetrating nunnery. Li Fifan was very smart. He quickly pulled Commander Zhao aside and said, "Don't tell them my real identity. It's not good for them." "I understand." Dadak Zhao chuckled and nodded. At this time, an arrogant old man slowly walked down from an SUV. The old man had a white face and no beard. He was wearing a long robe, but his steps were steady. He was an immortal state cultivator and his eyes were burning. Behind him was a man and a woman. The man was in his 30s. He was wearing a similar long robe and mandarin jacket, but it was a bright yellow color. He wore a jade thumb ring with an excellent head of water. He held a folding fan in his hand and had a very eye-catching braid. His bearing was strict and disciplined, but his expression was arrogant and haughty, as if he was a noble from the heavens. The woman was a few years younger. She was wearing a red cheongsam and high heels. She was beautiful and elegant, like a princess of the Qing dynasty. Dadik Xiao hurried to greet him. He lowered his head and bowed. Then, he pointed at Jiang Tian and the others and whispered something in the old man's ear. "Brothers, are you believers of the sky-penetrating nunnery?" After hearing Commander Zhao's introduction, the old man looked at Li Fifan and asked. His voice was hoarse like a eunuch's. "That's right. I'm from Singapore. My surname is Li and I want to join the sky-penetrating nunnery. These are all my attendants. How should I address you?" Li Fifan hurried to greet him and said with a smile. On the way, Jiang Tian had told him to hide his identity and enter the sky-penetrating nunnery to gather as much information as possible. Then, he would get close to the teleportation array and be teleported to the sky-penetrating palace. After all, the sky-penetrating palace already knew that the Azure Mystic Sect disciple and the others had died at the hands of Jiang Tian. If the people of the sky-penetrating nunnery destroyed the teleportation array, Jiang Tian would be in trouble. "The old man's surname is Hai. This is my family's. Young Master and Young Lady Jean," the old man said indifferently. "Reclusive royalty. The descendants of the Qing dynasty. I didn't expect them to come out and collude with the sky-penetrating palace." Yi Tianren raised his eyebrows and immediately sent a message to Jiang Tian with his soul energy. Reclusive royalty had existed for a long time, but most of them didn't interfere with the secular world. After the Republic of China, there had been no news of them. Jiang Tian nodded slightly and said with his soul energy, "It seems that the sky-penetrating palace wants to unite some forces to deal with me. Maybe they are leading the way again." At this time, the young Master Jean said coldly, "Lord Hai, what are you talking about with them? They are just a group of lowly ants in the secular world." A trace of anger flashed across Li Fifan's face. After all, his status was not ordinary, and he had never been humiliated like this. However, when he saw that Jiang Tian didn't change his expression, he immediately pretended to be subservient. He took out an antique jade plate from his pocket and said with a smile, "Young Master Jean, I have always wanted to be a disciple of the sky-penetrating nunnery, but I have never been recommended by an expert. I wonder if young Master Jean can recommend me today?" The young Master Jean didn't even look at him and said proudly, "Recommend me? Do you know why we're attending this gathering? If I tell you, you will be scared to death." "Young Master Jean, please enlighten me," Li Fifan said humbly. "An immortal will come to the secular world to kill Kong Teichu. We are here to invite the immortal to come to the secular world," the young Master Jean said disdainfully. Next to him, Dadik Xiao's expression changed slightly, but he didn't say anything. The Li family of Singapore was attached to Kong Teichu, but the Jean family of reclusive royalty and the sky-penetrating nunnery were also very powerful. He couldn't afford to offend either of them. "Brother, Kong Teichu is very powerful, and his forces are spread all over the world. What if the news is leaked?" Miss Jean frowned, as if she thought that the young Master Jean was too talkative and shouldn't reveal such a secret. "Yalan, so what if I tell you? So what if the news is leaked?" the young Master Jean said disdainfully with a mocking expression. "In the wasteland world, Kong Teichu is very powerful. He is a half-step fairy immortal and controls a country and a sect. But so what?" The young Master Jean flicked his sleeves and said disdainfully, "In the eyes of the immortals of the Yin sect, he is just an ant. He is just a mortal who can't even compare to our reclusive royalty, let alone the immortals. Young Master, Kong Teichu's strength can't be underestimated." Eunuch Hai shook his head with a wry smile and said gently, "You have to treat him with caution. In this old man's opinion, we'd better not get involved in this mess." The young Master Jean snorted and said disdainfully, "Eunuch Hai, you are afraid of him, but I am not. I am a man of reclusive royalty, the son of heaven. If he dares to be arrogant in front of me, I can kill him with one slap." Chapter 880. It turned out that Mr. Jin's surname was Eisenjoro and his given name was Zihan. He was a descendant of the Eisenjoro. However, the Eisen family had gone into seclusion a long time ago and was not allowed to interfere with the order of the world. He was already half a step away from the immortal state and thought highly of himself. He thought that Jiang Tian's reputation was undeserved and did not give a damn about Jiang Tian. Eunuch Hai shook his head and let out a wry smile. There was a hint of disappointment in his eyes. The woman of Shang dynasty had no idea about the loss of her country. It had been a few hundred years, and yet he was still dreaming of restoring it. What a joke! Most importantly, he was too arrogant. Just like those old fellows of their ancestors, he thought of himself as a superior nation and was old-fashioned and conservative. In the end, his country was still destroyed by the Westerners' ships and cannons. However, he was just a servant after all. There were some things that he could not say. Li Fifan clapped his hands and praised, "Mr. Jin, you have a sharp eye. We are on the same page. Do you know the Guo family of Nanyang?" "Yes, they are just a local tycoon." Jin Zihan waved his folding fan and said proudly. Li Fifan said indignantly, "Back then, the Guo family was full of kind-hearted people, but because the young lady of the Guo family, Guo Lily, offended Jiang Taichu unintentionally, Jiang Taichu exterminated the entire family. Not even a chicken or a dog was spared. Everyone in the upper class of Singapore was in danger and could not eat or sleep well." He patted his chest, spittle flying everywhere as he said impassionately, "If an immortal descends to the mortal world and is able to destroy this evil Jiang Taichu, I am willing to do my part. My family is not rich, so I can't help much. However, I can provide a few $100 million in funds or a few airplanes or ships." Jiang Tian and Yi Tianren looked at each other and smiled without saying a word. This son of a bitch is good at acting. It would be a waste of his talent if he didn't work as an extra in a movie studio. "Really?" Jin Zihan's eyes lit up and she said happily, "Since that's the case, from now on, you're my little brother." Although he thought highly of himself and was a martial artist, his country had been destroyed for a long time, and the little wealth that had been passed down from his ancestors had long been eaten up by them. His current situation was that, my ancestors were also once rich, while he himself was already embarrassingly short of money, so he was exceptionally poor. At this time, Li Fifan said that he wanted to donate money, which was exactly what Jin Zihan wanted. When she was about to fall asleep, someone handed her a pillow. The next moment, he put his hands behind his back, puffed out his chest, and said proudly, "It's your honor to accept you as my underling. Do you know who I am?" "Old man, I see that your earth pavilion is large and round, and your head is towering. You have a royal aura. Could it be that you're a descendant of the royal family?" Yi Tianren interrupted with a smile. Jin Zihan suddenly closed the folding fan in his hand and patted it heavily in the palm of his left hand. She said with a smile, "Little Li, your servant knows his stuff." He was full of arrogance, and his eyebrows were raised to the sky. He said proudly, "That's right, I am a descendant of the royal family. In the past, I could be a red-crowned iron hat and inherit it." He put his hands behind his back and said with great enthusiasm, "Now, the world is going to change greatly and chaos is coming. Immortals are about to descend to the mortal world and govern the mortal world. My Jin family is meritorious in welcoming the immortals, and the immortals will help me restore the dynasty. Maybe I will be the emperor. Little Li, do a good job. When it's done, I will at least give you a position as a governor." "Thank you, young Master Li. I will do my best. If you have any orders, I will not hesitate." Li Fifan hurriedly thanked him and bowed deeply to hide the twitching smile on his face. Did this Jin guy come from the Hengdian film and television city? Did he go crazy because of his acting? Restore the dynasty? Don't you know what era it is now? A nuclear weapon can turn you into ashes. What a joke. Alas, we can't do without an emperor. Now I'm back. Jin Zihan flung his sleeves and sighed deeply, showing some vicissitudes of life. The situation is not good. What does Li Fifan want to do? It's so weird. No, I have to leave first. Dadak Xiao was worried and anxious. He said goodbye to Jin Zihan and Li Fifan. Jiang Tian and the others didn't need to ask him to stay. So, only Jiang Tian, Yi Tianren, and Li Fifan were left. They followed young Master Jin and the other two people to the Tong Tian Nunnery. After 3 hours of trekking, they finally arrived at the Tong Tian Nunnery. The Tong Tian Nunnery was hidden in a dense forest. The palace was old and small, but it was full of incense, and the pleasant smell of sandalwood lingered in the air. The statues of the three pure ones and Yuan Tiangang were enshrined in the front, middle, and back halls, as well as the memorial tablets of the leaders of the previous generations. The slightly spacious middle hall was already filled with guests. There were warriors, Taoist priests, monks, some rich people in the secular world, and even some people in ancient costumes. "Welcome, Mr. Jin. These friends don't look familiar." Seeing the arrival of guests, a beautiful Taoist nun immediately came to greet them and checked their jade plates and invitation letters. This Taoist nun was 16 years old. Her hair was tied into a bun, and there was an antique jade hairpin worth at least 1 million yuan in it. No wonder my father wanted to be a disciple of the Tong Tian Nunnery. There are so many beautiful women here. Seeing this, Li Fifan's eyes widened, and he almost drooled. Taoist nun Lan Xiang, these three are my attendants. Jin Zihan, who was arrogant outside, hurriedly cupped his fists respectfully and said in a low voice, "Although they don't have high cultivation, they are still very influential in the secular world. This time, they are here to help. Taoist nun Lan Xiang, please do us a favor. Then please come in and don't walk around. Today, Divine Nun Wu Sun is presiding over the meeting, which is different from the past. If you offend her, you will all die." Seeing Li Fifan's frivolous behavior and shifty eyes, and Jiang Tian and Yi Tianren seemed to have no cultivation, the Taoist nuns secretly despised them. She warned them coldly and let them in. Reclusive royalty is not only the Jin family, but also the Li family, who supports the celestial immortals of the Celestial Palace. They are the descendants. After entering the main hall, they sat down on chairs. Jin Zihan's face was slightly stern and said in a low voice, "They have a closer relationship with the Celestial Palace. After all, the current leader of the Celestial Palace is the descendant and disciple of Yuan Tiangang, who was the imperial preceptor of the Tang dynasty. The Celestial Palace hasn't been on Earth for hundreds of years. It seems that they don't have many supporters in the secular world." Yi Tianren's sharp eyes looked around and said in a low voice. He listened to their chit-chat and self-introduction. These people had a net worth of about 1 billion. Some of them were officials from small countries in Southeast Asia, but their positions were not very high. In terms of cultivation, there was an immortal state warrior among the members of the Li family of the reclusive royalty. Jin Zihan and Eunuch Hai of the Jin family were also at the immortal state. However, the rest of them were all transcendent state internal force users. In the mortal world, such a cultivation could be the master of a sect or a great figure. It was shocking and extraordinary. However, in the eyes of Jiang Tian and even in the eyes of Yi Tianren, they were just ants that couldn't withstand a single blow. Jiang Tian nodded and immediately scanned the hall with his immortal will to look for the teleportation array. In the end, his pupils shrank slightly, and his eyes focused on the statue of Yuan Tiangang. Then, Jiang Tian's immortal will passed through the wall of the main hall again and fell on a Taoist nun in a black outfit in the back hall. The Taoist nun had wrinkled skin and a crane's head. Although she looked old, she was also an immortal state warrior. She must be the master of the Tong Tian Nunnery, Immortal Nun Wu Sunday. The old nun in a black outfit sat cross-legged on a cushion with a horsetail whisk behind her back. She was discussing matters with her disciples and giving orders. The Qin Zongheng and the 6 major martial arts families of Yanjin have been destroyed by Kang Teichu. There is no one in the secular world to guide the Sky Star Palace. After hearing the disciples' report, Immortal Nun Wu Sun pulled a long face and said with anger, "This is very troublesome. After all, if we want to take over the secular world, we have to go through this and cultivate a group of political supporters. Immortal Nun, reclusive royalty. Aren't the Jin family and the Li family more powerful than the Qin Zongheng? Why do we have to look for a new agent? A young nun asked in confusion. They are indeed more powerful than the Qin family, but the problem is that they don't have much influence in the secular world. Immortal Nun Wu Sun shook her head and frowned. In fact, once they are born, they will be eradicated by the secular regime as feudal evils and heretics. If they come out and mediate with the secular world, it will only arouse suspicion and lead to negative consequences. So, you have to continue looking for a suitable agent. We can expand the search in Southeast Asia, Myanmar, Laos, and other places. But the most important thing is to look for them in the region. After all, this is the site of the ancient cultivation planet. Once the spirit chi there is recovered, it will be much stronger than other places. If it doesn't work, then we can only kill a group of people to scare them. Let them know that the deities of the Yin sect are not to be offended. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. Her voice was hoarse like the cry of an old bird, and her sinister eyes were exceptionally frightening. Also, because the Qing Xianpaozi was killed, the palace master is furious. He wants to come out of seclusion and kill Kong Teichu. If you want to sneak into Sidoni, it would be best if you can become a disciple of Kong Teichu and find out more about Kong Teichu and his disciples. Also, if the Starry Palace wants to take control of the wasteland world, it would be better to open a gap in Sidoni. Sidoni is a bit of a theocracy. As long as we kill Kong Teichu and take over Tianqing School, we can basically take over Sidoni as well. Chapter 881. At this point, Taoist Nun Wu Sun's face was filled with fear. This poor nun heard that Jiang Taichu not only has a powerful cultivation, but he's also extremely ferocious and vicious. He's ruthless and vicious to the extreme, and he'll easily annihilate families and destroy cities and countries. Qin Zongheng and the others were killed by him, which is a warning to us. This guy is not simple. We have to be careful. Those disciples who are wandering outside should return to the nunnery immediately and strengthen the security. Although our nunnery is hidden and has been low-key for hundreds of years, we are still in the same time and space as him. Who knows if he will come here? Taoist Nun Wu Sun gave out orders one by one to strengthen the security. Only then did she feel slightly relieved. Finally, she stood up and walked toward the middle hall, surrounded by a few Taoist nuns. Divine Nun Wu Sun. Divine Nun Wu Sun is here to see you, Divine Nun Wu Sun. Seeing Divine Nun Wu Sun, many rich people and high-ranking officials present were shocked. They rushed to kneel down and kowtow with reverence in their eyes. They were so excited that they trembled as if they had seen a deity. Greetings, Divine Nun Wu Sun. We wish Divine Nun Wu Sun a long life. We wish Tong Tian Nunnery a prosperous life. Even Jin Zihan, Jin Yuran and many overlords of the reclusive royalty Li family knelt down and kowtowed to show their respect. Even though the royal families had declined, they were once the children of heaven and controlled a dynasty, so they were much more powerful than the martial arts families like the Qin family in Yanjin. However, compared to the real Yin sects like the Sky Palace, they were too weak. The Yin sects belonged to another world and had a different civilization. In their eyes, they were like immortals. The entire hall was filled with people kneeling down. Only Jiang Tian and Yi Tianren stood proudly like cranes in a flock of chickens. How dare you! Seeing this, Taoist Nun Lan Xiang, who led them in, had a gloomy expression on her pretty face. She raised her hand and pointed at Jiang Tian and Li Mu as she shouted angrily, Divine Nun Wushuan has descended upon the human world. You abandoned people of the wasteland, insects and ants, hurry up and kneel down. Are you too stupid? Have you forgotten my instructions? Why aren't you kneeling and kowtowing? Jin Zihan turned around to take a look. She immediately panicked and jumped up. He pulled out a golden soft sword from his waist and said coldly, How dare you offend an immortal? I'll kill you. That eunuch Hai's face was also very anxious. He was so scared that cold sweat broke out. Mr. Jiang, quickly kneel down. Jin Yuran tugged on Jiang Tian's sleeve and once again kowtowed deeply to the divine Nun Wu Hun, pleading on Jiang Tian's behalf. Taoist Nun Lan Xiang, please calm down. These two people are just followers we've just taken in. They don't know the rules of the Tong Tian nunnery, but they have no intention of disrespect. Please forgive them. Everyone thought that Jiang Tian would kneel down and beg for mercy, kowtow, and admit his guilt. After all, who would dare to provoke the dignity of the Yin sect? Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian only smiled coldly. He stared at Taoist nun Lan Xiang and said indifferently, "Little nun, you want me to kneel down? What's wrong with asking you to kneel down? You've been wronged. We're immortals and fairies. You're just an ant from the secular world. To be able to kneel and witness the glory of the secret order's members is a blessing from your ancestors' graves. It's a great fortune." That's right. This idiot doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Don't waste your time talking nonsense with this kind of ant. Just kill him with a sword. Those beautiful little Taoist nuns were youthful and beautiful, but they thought highly of themselves and were as vicious as snakes and scorpions. Seeing this, they were all high and mighty, scolding Jiang Tian proudly. "Aunt, I'm already being lenient by asking you to kneel down. If it were in the past, I would have killed." Taoist nun Lan Xiang scolded angrily, but her voice stopped abruptly. Her head exploded like a rotten watermelon. Translucent blood and flesh, white brain matter, and skulls flew everywhere. The headless corpse fell to the ground. The skirt of her Taoist robe was open, revealing a pair of snow-white, slender legs. The whole place was dead silent. Everyone was frozen in place like wooden sculptures, not moving at all. Fairy? The Yin sect? What kind of trash is that? You can't even withstand a single blow. Jiang Tian retracted his finger and stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at Taoist nun Wu Sun with a smile. "How dare you attack the people of the Tong Tian nunnery? Crazy. This person is crazy. Isn't he afraid of the wrath of the immortals?" Many rich people and high-ranking officials were scared out of their wits. "He is a martial artist. He can condense qi into a weapon and kill people in the air. I'm afraid he is an immortal state warrior." One of the experts from the Li family, a reclusive royal family, exclaimed in shock. "Immortal state warrior." Jin Zihan's face turned pale. She was dumbfounded and could not believe it. Isn't this young man Li Fifan's servant? How could he be so powerful? How could Li Fifan afford an immortal state warrior? "You are Kong Teichu." Divine Nun Wu Sun's face paled and she stared at Jiang Tian in horror. She had already guessed that Jiang Tian would attack the Tong Tian nunnery, but she had never thought that Jiang Tian would do it so quickly. She was completely taken by surprise. "That's right. Kong Teichu is here. He is waiting for you to kill him." Jiang Tian cracked a smile and said, "Wu Sun, didn't you say that you wanted to kill me? Now that I am here, do it." As soon as these words were spoken, the entire place fell into dead silence. Everyone kept quiet out of fear and no one dared to make a sound. All of them looked at Jiang Tian with dumbstruck expressions as if they'd seen an evil ghost in broad daylight, and tempestuous waves arose in their hearts and were filled with terror. The most powerful overlord in the world, Kong Teichu, was here. The purpose of the gathering at the Tong Tian nunnery was to discuss how to deal with Kong Teichu. Everyone had insulted and disrespected Kong Teichu. Now that they'd bumped into Jiang Taichu, with his personality of easily annihilating people, how could he spare them? Resist? Are you kidding? Who would dare to resist? Who could resist? Deity realm powerhouses were like 3-year-old children in front of Jiang Taichu, unable to withstand a single blow. "Grandmaster Jiang, this old nun is only following orders. There are many things that I can't do." Fear surfaced on Divine Nun Wu Sun's face. She took a step back and her old body trembled. She thought that the Starry Sky Palace had the power to challenge Jiang Tian, but she was only an immortal state warrior. She was too weak. She could count the number of immortal state warriors who had died at Jiang Tian's hands. She was no match for him. "Are you begging for mercy? Then you should show me your sincerity. Even if you kneel down and kowtow to me, it depends on my mood whether I will forgive you or not. Besides, you haven't kowtowed to me yet." Jiang Tian smiled coldly. His expression was cold and emotionless as the rings of purple lightning in his eyes widened slightly. Sizzle. Two purple lightning bolts shot out of Jiang Tian's eyes like the Milky Way and enveloped divine Nun Wushuan. The speed of the purple lightning eyes was simply too fast. Moreover, there was no warning when it was used. It was simply impossible to guard against. Therefore, divine Nun Wushuan didn't have time to use many of her offensive and defensive techniques. Only a few protective Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures shot out dazzling light, forming a few flashing shields. These Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures came from the Starry Sky Palace and were comparable to half-spirit treasures. However, they couldn't withstand a single blow from Jiang Tian's purple lightning eyes. Boom, boom, boom. The shields were destroyed in the blink of an eye. Then, divine Nun Wushuan turned into ashes. Not even a strand of hair was left. The purple lightning sea also disappeared as if divine Nun Wushuan had never appeared in this world. Only the faint smell of ozone and burnt flesh in the air proved that Jiang Tian had used the purple lightning sea to kill divine Nun Wushuan. Master Kong, I was deceived. Please spare my life. We are young, beautiful, and sensible. We are willing to serve you for the rest of our lives. Thump, thump. The young and beautiful Taoist nuns couldn't be arrogant anymore. They were so scared that their souls were about to leave their bodies. Their beautiful faces turned pale as they rushed to kowtow to Jiang Tian. Master Kong, we were wrong. We didn't know that this evil nun called us here to discuss how to deal with Master Kong. Otherwise, we wouldn't have come even if we were beaten to death. Master Kang's Dharma artifact and divine ability are famous all over the world. We admire you very much. We can't wait to follow Master Kong and travel the world. The members of the Li family who were paying reclusive royalty also kowtowed and trembled as if they had seen a demon. Master Kong, please forgive me for being blind and not recognizing you. I was rude just now. Jin Zihan also kowtowed to Jiang Tian. She was so scared that tears and snot flowed down her face. Her heart felt like it was about to explode. He is a half-step heaven immortal, or even a heaven immortal. He is the most powerful man in the world. But he pretended to be a little follower of a rich man and pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger. Do all masters have such a bad taste? Jin Zihan wanted to cry but had no tears. She complained crazily in her heart. Originally, Jin Zihan thought that Jiang Tian was Li Fifen's follower and was like an aunt to her. She didn't even look at him. She didn't expect that Jiang Tian was Kong Teichu. At this time, Jin Zihan was so scared that her head was buzzing. She felt cold in front of her eyes and almost fainted on the spot. Didn't you want to slap me to death? Get up and slap me. Jiang Tian's face was full of mockery. He raised his hand and slapped Jin Zihan's face heavily. Slap. Jin Zihan was like a spinning top as she was slapped by Jiang Tian. She was sent flying more than 10 meters away and crashed heavily into the wall, creating a big hole. Chapter 882. Dust and bricks flew everywhere. Jin Zihan directly smashed a human-shaped hole in the wall and flew out. It hurts. Jin Zihan's nose was bleeding wildly. His face was blooming, and half of his face was broken. He lay on the ground like a dead dog. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, mixed with a few canine teeth. Aren't you a descendant of the imperial family with a noble status, deep foundation, and powerful strength? Come and kill me. Jiang Tian's eyes were full of mockery. He reached out his right hand and grabbed. Jin Zihan flew back, dancing with joy. He was firmly controlled by Jiang Tian's aura. Like a marionette, he floated in the air. Master Kong, spare my life. Compared to you, what am I? I'm just a dog. Jin Zihan laughed shamelessly. He didn't expect this guy to be so flexible even though he looked so arrogant. You want to be Master Kang's dog? You really know how to flatter yourself. At the door, the large black dog said disdainfully, I'm a dragon, so I'm qualified to be Master Kang's dog, okay? You want to fight for his favor? Are you worthy? Your smile is too ugly. It's even uglier than my large black dog's. So you can go die. Jiang Tian sneered and threw his hand casually. Boom. One sound. Jin Zihan was heavily smashed to the ground by Jiang Tian like a toad. He directly smashed a human-shaped hole 3 meters deep in the ground. He had completely sunk in. Flames erupted around the crater, and the floor tiles and rocks melted like magma. Spiderweb-like cracks quickly spread outwards, and the entire hall shook violently. "Oh my master, you're too awesome. You directly smashed him into barbecued meat. All that's left is a pinch of salt and cumin." The large black dog jumped out and smiled flatteringly at Jiang Tian. "I forgot that I haven't fed you today. It's a pity that old bastard Nun Wushuan has such good cultivation." Jiang Tian smiled faintly. The purple gold divine dragon had a special physique. After devouring the body of an expert, it could refine the blood essence and true qi into its physical cultivation. The purple gold divine dragon had eaten many experts and was now a worldly immortal, which was the first level of the foundation establishment realm. Moreover, he was proficient in many spells, which made him extremely terrifying. "Master, I'm not interested in this old thief nun. Her flesh was too tough. This baby dragon can't do it." The large black dog was blabbering as it ran happily to the side of the human-shaped hole. With a roar, it opened its bloody mouth. At this moment, its head had swelled to the size of a large water tank, and its mouth had split open all the way to its ears, revealing large teeth that were as sharp as blades. It looked extremely terrifying. Amidst Jin Zihan's screams, the purple gold old dragon swallowed her into its mouth. Its left front claw grabbed a big bag of spicy strips and started chewing. "This kid's skin is tender and his meat is so delicious. Especially with the spicy strips, it's simply perfect. However, if you say that Jin Zihan's smile isn't as beautiful as mine, I definitely won't agree. His warm smile can't be compared to mine at all." Hearing the sound of teeth crunching bones and seeing the scene of flesh and blood flying everywhere, everyone's scalps went numb. Their vision turned black, and their hair stood on end. They shivered like quails in the cold wind. Jiang Tian was too domineering. He killed people with a raise of his hand. One had to know that Jin Zihan was a reclusive royalty. Furthermore, Jin Zihan was actually eaten by a large black dog that could talk. This was too scary. Even though these people present were used to killing, they still felt their hair stand on end. No matter what, Jin Zihan was of the same kind, but she was actually eaten alive. Apart from Eunuch Hai and Jin Yuren, kill everyone else. Jiang Tian said coolly. "Yes, master." Yi Tianren immediately moved. He was ruthless and merciless, and with a single sword strike, he directly beheaded the dozen or so beautiful little nuns. These were all the guides of the heavenly star palace. They intended to seize the world of Earth, set off a storm of blood, and create a monstrous disaster. Once they succeeded, billions of people would be plunged into misery and suffering, and the people would have no way to make a living. Moreover, Yi Tianren hated the people of the hidden sect world and the immortal ruins world the most. How could he show mercy? "Brother Heavenly Star, kill slowly. I want to eat while it's hot." The large black dog soared into the air, opened his mouth, and revealed his sharp fangs as he crazily swallowed. Every time the large black dog opened his mouth, he could swallow an expert alive. Even immortal realm elites couldn't resist or escape. Only 3 minutes later, the entire sky-reaching nunnery was swept clean. Apart from Eunuch Hai and Jin Yuren, these human rebels were all killed and devoured by the large black dog. "Thank you, Master Kang, for not killing us. We are willing to be Master Kang's lackeys. If you have any orders, we will obey without question." Only Jin Yuren and Eunuch Hai were left. They knelt there, trembling, and their faces were pale. "Do you know why I didn't kill you?" Jiang Tian stood with his hands behind his back and asked indifferently. "I don't know." Jin Yuren turned pale and said in a trembling voice. She and Eunuch Hai were strong, but in Jiang Tian's eyes, they were like ants. She didn't know why Jiang Tian spared them. Reclusive royalty intended to cooperate with the hidden sect world and become their guide to attack the secular world. Betraying the human race on Earth is unforgivable. Jiang Tian said coldly. "I didn't kill you because I left a pawn in the reclusive royalty. You must carefully observe the reclusive royalty. If there are any changes, immediately report to Tianqing School. Do you understand? Don't worry, Master Kong. I have always thought that the reclusive royalty wants to control the secular world, which is tantamount to a fool's dream. I am willing to help in this matter. Eunuch Hai and Jin Yuran quickly expressed their opinions. Jiang Tian cast 2 talismans and enveloped the 2 of them. Master Kong, this is... The 2 of them suddenly felt a strange force pouring into their hearts. They secretly used all kinds of secret divine powers, but they couldn't get rid of it at all. They couldn't help but change their expressions and exclaim, "The heartburst curse!" Jiang Tian said indifferently, "And it's a strengthened version, infused with a strand of my divine sense. This divine sense is always monitoring the 2 of you. If you dare to betray me, your hearts will immediately explode. Don't dream of breaking this curse. Even the masters above the sky immortal level don't have this ability." "Yes, Master Kong, we will do our best to serve you." The 2 of them looked sad. They were afraid that from now on, they would completely become Jiang Tian's slaves. "Don't worry. This curse won't have any impact on your daily life and cultivation," Jiang Tian said lightly. "If you do it well, not only will you not make any mistakes, but you will also make contributions. I will reward you handsomely. When I conquer the insect's ruins of immortality, I will bring you in. There will be countless cultivation resources, supreme cultivation techniques, blessed grotto heavens, Dharma treasures and Dharma artifacts. At that time, everyone will trust each other and I will naturally help you come into contact with the curse. Grandmaster Zhang's great kindness, we will never forget it. We will do our best to serve you. We will not hesitate to sacrifice our lives." As soon as he said that, Jin Yuran and Eunuch Hai's eyes lit up and they were overjoyed. They kowtowed deeply to Jiang Tian. Their purpose of working for the insect was to enter the ruins of immortality or the insect and obtain these resources. However, even if they tried their best, they might not get what they wanted. It was more likely that they would become their agents in the secular world. Now, Jiang Tian had given them such a great temptation. How could they not be overjoyed? "Alright, you can go. I'm sure you can think of a suitable excuse for how Jin Zihan died." Jiang Tian waved his hand and dismissed the 2. "Li Fifan, you can go too," Jiang Tian said to Li Fifan, who was dumbstruck. "Yes, Jiang, Master Kong." Li Fifan's voice was trembling. Everything that he had seen today was too terrifying and too exciting. The 3 of them hurriedly left. Jiang Tian's sword cut open the Heavenly Master statue in the middle of the hall. The base was actually a teleportation array. This array was 5 meters in radius and was built with 5-colored muddy soil. It was very sturdy and heavy. It was branded and engraved with obscure and mysterious patterns. There was an aura of time as if it had traveled through time. Moreover, there were some stone slabs and jade pieces sealed in the circular earthen altar. The exposed parts had ancient patterns and symbols engraved with the marks of time. They looked even older than the oracle bone inscriptions. 5-colored altar. It is said that there is an altar cast with 5-colored muddy soil in the ancient pilgrimage grounds on Mount Tai. Yi Tunren was taken aback by the sight. In the historical records of the pilgrimage to Mount Tai, Lord Taisher had written, "Flying heroes soar, golden mud and stone record." Pilgrimage to Mount Tai was a very mysterious event in history. It was a ceremony that ancient rulers held to offer sacrifices to heaven and earth. The ancients believed that Mount Tai was the tallest mountain in the world. Therefore, the emperors of the mortal world had to go to the highest mountain to offer sacrifices to the heavenly god and communicate with the heavenly god. Who would have thought that in this remote Southeast Asia, in this remote primeval forest, they would see the legendary 5-colored altar on Mount Tai? This is not an altar, it is a teleportation array. Although it is primitive and crude, it can't be used for interstellar teleportation. However, it can break open the dimensional space and bring us into the small world. Jiang Tian's pupils shrank as he heaved a sigh. Chapter 883. The ruins of immortality and many hidden sex worlds were closely connected to the Earth. They were small worlds not far from the Earth. Not to mention interstellar travel, even if it was a real big world, the enchantment was very strict and thick. Such a primitive and crude transmission array could not be transmitted smoothly. As for the 5-colored Earth altar that Yi Tianren mentioned, it might also be a transmission array left behind from the ancient times. Perhaps in the long river of history, someone had seen the ancient mighty people passing their physical body from there. Then the imperial family knew that the ancient emperors were there to offer sacrifices to the heavens, trying to communicate with the ancient mighty people that they thought were immortals. Jiang Tian thought to himself. When he had time, he still wanted to walk around and take a look, including the Penglai of the East Sea, the Kunlun sect, the Qingqing sect, and so on. Maybe he could find the passage to other hidden sects' dimensional worlds. But now that he had found this transmission array, Jiang Tian naturally had no reason to give up the near for the far. Okay, the array is very complete, and the magic power is not lost. Let's go now. Jiang Tian's face was slightly stern. With a flick of his sleeve, he took the lead and stepped onto the transmission array. Yi Tianren and the big black dog walked onto the circular array plate together. Jiang Tian patted the sky-devouring demonic gourd and took out the jade array pestle that he took from Qing Xian and Immortal Yuan. After thinking for a while, according to a certain pattern, they fell into the array eyes. Boom! The 5-colored transmission array seemed to be injected with a huge amount of energy and trembled slightly. A hazy halo bloomed and shrouded them. Yi Tianren was shocked. He suddenly felt a vast amount of energy pouring into his body. He was nailed to the ground and could not move a step. "Oh my God, Master, this is so scary. Hurry up and pick me up." The big black dog bit Jiang Tian's sleeve and screamed, acting cute and coquettishly. "I'm just overweight, okay? I've never taken an elevator before." Jiang Tian rolled his eyes at him. Right at this moment, buzzing, intense vibrations rang out. The many jade tablets and stone tablets in the teleportation formations suddenly trembled violently and shone brightly. The many characters and patterns on them actually rose into the air. In an instant, hundreds of millions of runes flashed around the teleportation formation. These characters and patterns seemed to be cast from gold. They had the texture of metal and were unusually heavy. Moreover, it was emitting a bright light, as if stars were shining. It contained incredible spatial power. These runes formed a golden passageway that shot straight into the clouds. It stretched as far as the eye could see, as if it was connected to another spacetime. Boom! Boom! At this moment, Jiang Tian and the others felt a surging gravitational force descend from the sky, enveloping them. Mommy, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to be torn apart. This dragon baby is scared to death. Amidst the violent tremors, the large black dog's figure became blurry. Its fur and muscles were trembling rapidly, as if it was going to be completely annihilated in the next moment. Its face was filled with shock and fear, and it screamed at the top of its lungs. "Stop shouting!" Jiang Tian glared at him. Light and shadow were born and extinguished, and the rippling light sparkled. The golden symbols and patterns blossomed with incomparably resplendent light. With a whoosh, Jiang Tian and the others were pulled into 3 sharp rays of light by the huge energy. They rose from the ground and disappeared into the horizon. After an unknown period of time, in the star dimension on a short mountain, a sound like a fighter jet piercing through the sky rang out. A bright beam of light pierced through the air, and the void within a radius of several hundred meters trembled violently. It was chaotic. A moment later, the chaos dissipated and the dust settled. The world regained its tranquility and clarity. Jiang Tian, Yi Tianren, and the large black dog slowly walked down from the teleportation formation of the 5-colored mutant soil and scanned their surroundings. If they looked up, they would discover that this place was located in a place that didn't look like the human world. Above their heads was a dome of spiritual energy, and below their feet was an irregular but generally rectangular continent. The blue planet was clearly visible. It seemed to have escaped the gravitational field of Earth, but it wasn't far from Earth. At least, it was within the solar system. Lush mountains and surging rivers stretched across this continent that didn't reach the sky and didn't reach the ground. Like a waterfall at the edge of the continent, it fell into the void. However, it was absorbed by a strange force and flowed into the bottom of the continent, forming a subtle cycle. What rich spiritual energy! Yitunren stood on the lush grass and took a deep breath. His eyes were intoxicated, and his face was filled with shock. Here, trees towered into the sky like giant umbrellas. They were hundreds of meters tall, and 3 to 5 people holding hands wouldn't be able to encircle them. There were also gurgling springs flowing over the pure white stones. The fragrant grass was lush, and there were wild deer running. Large birds with wings over 10 meters long soared in the sky. Vines as thick as an arm wrapped around the tree trunks like dragons. Not bad. It can be said to be a paradise. It can already allow some birds and beasts to evolve into ferocious mutated beasts. Jiang Tian nodded slightly, and the light in his eyes flickered. In this space, the spiritual energy between heaven and earth was very pure and rich. It formed a milk-like mist, and it had already reached the level of spiritual energy fog. Although it couldn't be compared to the spiritual energy in Jiang Tian's heavenly cycle perpetual array, it was at least as rich as the dragon crouching mountain array in Jinling. According to the memories of the Qing Xian sect disciple, the star dimension has a radius of thousands of kilometers, and the area far exceeds that. Jiang Tian frowned and said slowly, "The location of this teleportation array is called Qingyang Town. It's a small town in the border city under the jurisdiction of the Heavenly Star Palace. It's located at the edge of the star dimension. Let's go to Qingyang Town first. It's best not to reveal our cultivation. First, we need to find out more information about this space. Then, we can find the Heavenly Star Palace's dojo and directly destroy them." But Yi Tianren's spirits were lifted. The big black dog ran happily and quickly followed Jiang Tian's footsteps. Suddenly, Jiang Tian paused slightly and said with a smile, "Interesting, there are actually bandits." On top of a cliff 1 kilometer away, a cute girl in red clothes crawled on the ground and pulled out a black crossbow from her back. The girl had a beautiful face and a trace of murderous intent flashed in her bright eyes. She said coldly, "It should be the people of the Heavenly Star Palace who have returned from the outside world. Get ready to attack." "Forget it. Sister Ingluo, the people of the Heavenly Star Palace are very strong. You're only at the 3rd level of Qi refinement. You're too far away." Next to her, a young man lay on the grass with a blade of grass in his mouth and said casually, "Still, we have to kill them." A trace of resentment flashed in the girl's eyes. She said coldly, "Every year, they ask for a high tribute that we can't afford. How many people in our town have they killed?" A tall and muscular young man with a full beard was wearing a waistcoat made of tiger skin, revealing his thick muscles. He stared at Jiang Tian and the other two and said in a rough voice, "Smelly monkey, Ing Luo is right. They've used up a lot of magic power to travel through space. They're at their weakest right now. There's no time to lose." He made a prompt decision and jumped up. Like a cannonball across the sky, he rose 300 to 400 meters high and attacked Jiang Tian. The young girl Ing Luo and the smelly monkey also shot out like 2 whistling arrows, rushing towards Jiang Tian in a hurry. The bearded man was extremely fast. He drew a stream of light in the air and rushed to Jiang Tian's head in a few seconds. "Villains of the Heavenly Star Palace, die." Amidst his furious roar, he borrowed the momentum of falling, and his thick and solid arms that were like dragons swung 2 giant axes that were like wheels, chopping down towards the back of Jiang Tian's head. As expected of the world of the Yin sect. The spirit qi of heaven and earth is abundant and the strong are as common as clouds. The transcendent realm's strong people who can intimidate a city or a province on earth are everywhere here. Jiang Tian's divine sense had already scanned the 3 people. At this time, seeing the other party attacking, he only flicked his finger. Clang. The giant axe, which was made of strange metal and weighed over 1,000 kilograms, shot backwards like a meteor with the bearded man in tow. Boom. Wherever the giant axes passed, towering trees turned into dust and mountain rocks collapsed. The giant axes were embedded in a mountain wall and smashed a big black hole that could not be seen. The bearded man rolled on the ground and was carried hundreds of meters away. His face was full of horror and he shouted, "It's over. We've met an immortal state expert." "Oh my God! Immortal state!" The stinky monkey ran too fast and could not stop in time. He had to hit a tree to stop. Clang, clang, clang. He knocked down 3 big trees in a row and was covered in dust. He only stabilized himself on the 4th one. He hugged the tree trunk like a monkey and shouted at the top of his voice, "Sister Inglo, this is too difficult. Let's fight." The girl in red jumped up and down in the forest like a grasshopper and continued to rush toward Jiang Tian. She raised her eyebrows and said angrily, "No, we have to kill them no matter what." The stinky monkey was puzzled. But he had already stepped on the branch and bent it. Then, with the strong rebound force of the branch, he shot out like a whistling arrow. Repeating this over and over again, he leaped through the forest like a monkey, charging towards Jiang Tian. "Stupid monkey, we're not wearing masks. They've already seen us. How can we leave them alive?" Ingluo shouted impatiently. She had already drawn an arc 100 meters away from Jiang Tian's side. At the same time, she pulled the trigger of the crossbow in her hand. Whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, dozens of small arrows shot toward Jiang Tian at a speed comparable to the speed of sound. The crossbow was engraved with obscure and ancient patterns and exuded a strange metallic luster. It was obviously a good Dharma artifact. The arrows were extremely sharp and their attack power was comparable to a sniper rifle. They flashed with a blue light and were obviously dipped in poison. Chapter 884. Get lost. Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows and waved his hand. Boom. There was a loud noise. The surging 7th metal true essence pushed out like a raging wave. Many arrows flew out like flowers in the wind, not even touching Jiang Tian's clothes. "I got hit by an arrow." Ingluo also flew out. Suddenly she screamed, her shoulders stained with blood, looking at Jiang Tian in shock and fear, and quickly jumped back. "Trash! Eat my smelly bomb." The smelly monkey arrived in time, covering Ingluo's retreat while throwing 3 strange magic tools at Jiang Tian. Boom! The 3 magic tools suddenly exploded. Lightning flashed. It turned out to be an extremely rare thunder magic tool. But the thunder attack was just a disguise. In an instant, black smoke filled the air, and a nauseating stench spread, completely shrouding Jiang Tian and the others. Too smelly. Was this refined in the toilet? It's simply unbearable. The big black dog was tearing up, holding his stomach with both hands and vomiting violently. "This is the essence of my feet, snot, phlegm, bathwater, and other kinds of essence, steamed and dried for 49 days, refined into a peerless smelly bomb. You can slowly enjoy it." The smelly monkey laughed evilly and ran away. When the smoke and stench dissipated, the 3 people had disappeared. "Damn, when I catch him, I'll throw him into the cesspool." The big black dog was very resentful. He had never suffered such a big loss. Yi Tianren's face was dignified, and he asked, "Master, your heaven-swallowing demon gourd seems to have been taken away by the smelly monkey. Do you want to chase after him and eliminate him?" "No need to chase, they'll be back soon." Jiang Tian turned his hand, and a black porcelain bottle appeared like a magic trick, tossing it in his hand and laughing. At this time, the 3 bandits had run 10 kilometers away and rested in a cave. "That man is a pervert." Ingluo sat on the ground, puffing out her cheeks. "How is he a pervert?" The bearded man was puzzled. He attacked my chest." Ingluo clenched her teeth in anger. "Lecher, how dare you take advantage of me? I'll kill you." "Shameless." The smelly monkey cursed. Then, he took out the sky-devouring demonic gourd and tossed it in his hand. "However, I didn't do this deal for nothing. This is definitely a magical treasure. It was worth a lot of crystals. Then we'll be able to pay the tribute." "All right. Girl, don't be angry. Hurry up and treat him. Your crossbow bolts are stained with poison." Big Beard said nervously. Then he pulled Stinky Monkey out so that Ingluo could take off her clothes and apply the medicine. The two of them had just gone out when they heard Ing Luo's heart-wrenching screams coming from the cave. What happened? The two of them hurriedly rushed in and saw that Ing Luo's beautiful eyes were filled with tears as she started sobbing. Not only did he attack my chest, he even stole my antidote. That bastard! Ing Luo wiped her tears and said helplessly. Hurry up and find him before it's too late. Big Beard was anxious. He carried Ing Luo on his back and rushed in the direction of Jiang Tian. Why you back? With his hands behind his back, Jiang Tian smiled as he looked at the group of 3 bandits that had returned. Stinky Monkey stepped forward, trembling with fear, but his mouth was very tough. He shouted, "Return the antidote to us, and I'll tell you where your broken gourd is. Otherwise, you'll never find it." You think I won't be able to find it if you don't tell me? Jiang Tian pulled out the sky-devouring demonic gourd from his back and laughed. How did it come back to you? I buried it a few miles away just now. Stinky Monkey's eyes widened in disbelief. The 3 of them were so shocked that their faces turned pale, as if they had seen an evil ghost in broad daylight. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. There's a mental imprint I left on it. Even if it's thousands of miles away, it can't escape my eyes. You're from the outside, not from the Starry Palace? Big Beard sized up Jiang Tian and suddenly asked. Yes, I'm from Earth. Jiang Tian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You're all so reckless. You attacked without saying anything. If it weren't for my powerful cultivation, I'm afraid there would be a few more ghosts dying today. You're from Earth, but you have such a powerful cultivation. You must be at the immortal state. Yes, how is that possible? I'm afraid you're even stronger than the disciples of the Starry Palace. Big Beard, Ing Luo, and Stinky Monkey were dumbfounded, and their faces were full of disbelief. In the star dimension, Earth was called the Wasteland, and the mortals there were called the abandoned people of God. They had no cultivation and were as weak as ants, but they didn't expect there to be an existence beyond the transcendent state. May I ask why Brother has come to our stellar sky world? Big Beard was obviously simple-minded. He cupped his fists, bowed deeply, and said with a smile, I heard that once the abandoned people of Earth who came here were discovered by the Starry Palace, they would either be captured and enslaved or directly dismembered. Little brother, you must be careful. Is the Starry Palace so overbearing? Jiang Tian flicked his sleeves and stood with his hands behind his back, exuding a faint majestic aura. I, Kong Teichu, am here to destroy the Starry Palace. As soon as these words came out, the 3 of them all gasped and looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. The Starry Palace. This dimensional space was originally not called the Starry Palace dimensional space, but the Star Dimension. Now it was called the Starry Palace, and what it meant was self-evident. In this world, the Starry Palace was like the royal family, with the power to speak. If the Starry Palace was angry, blood would flow like rivers and the sky would change color. 4 giant cities, 3 major sects, and dozens of large and small sects had surrendered, and all of them respected the Starry Palace. The reason why they rebelled against the Starry Palace was that they were forced to a dead end by the Starry Palace. If they had a way, how would they dare to challenge the Starry Palace? It was like an ant trying to overturn an elephant. But this young man from the wasteland world claimed that he wanted to destroy the Starry Palace. So it's the Tai Chu Celestial Master. This is a misunderstanding. The bearded man immediately kowtowed to Jiang Tian and said anxiously, I'm Qiao Beishan from Qingyang Town. This is my sister Qiao Ing Luo, and my good brother Lu Dehe. We also rebelled against the Starry Palace, but we thought you were its disciples, so we tried to assassinate you. He slapped his thigh and pleaded, It can be said that the flood has flooded the Dragon King's temple, and we don't recognize each other anymore. Master Jiang, please return the antidote to my sister. We are willing to rise up with you and work together for the great cause. I didn't want to make things difficult for you. It's just that this little girl was too ruthless, so I gave her a little punishment. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and threw the black porcelain bottle into the arms of the girl Qiao Ing Luo. Qiao Ing Luo's pretty little face blushed, and her eyes widened. She looked at Jiang Tian with some reverence. She immediately swallowed a few antidote pills and sat cross-legged on the ground to refine them. A moment later, the poison subsided, and Xiao Yingluo's pale and bruised face regained its healthy redness. Master Jiang, as the saying goes, no discord, no concord. I admire Master Jiang very much. Why don't you come to my house for a few days and wash off the dust of your travels? Qiao Beishan was forthright and generous. He immediately cupped his fists and warmly invited him. Sure. After pondering for a moment, Jiang Tian gladly agreed. At that time, the souls of Heavenly Master Yuan and the others were about to be destroyed, and the information Jiang Tian collected was incomplete. Now that he met these three people who were at odds with the Starry Palace, it was a good opportunity to get some information from them. On the way, Qiao Beishan introduced their situation to Jiang Tian and the other two. The Qiao family is not a small family in Qingyang town and is one of the three richest families. They make a living by refining weapons and can refine weapons that are quasi-magic weapons. They can also set up arrays. Originally, they lived a very prosperous life. But in recent years, the Starry Palace has been trying to become a third-level hidden sect. They have plundered wantonly, and their exorbitant taxes have increased several times, causing the people to suffer, Qiao Beishan said angrily. The hidden sects are divided into different levels? Jiang Tian asked in surprise. That's right, Qiao Beishan said. Master Jiang, you came from the secular world, so you might not know much. Although I haven't been to other hidden sects, I heard that there are dozens of hidden sects in addition to the Starry Palace. According to the statistics of the number of experts, the hidden sects of true cultivation are divided into 5 levels. The lowest level is the 5th level. The 5th level hidden sects only have foundation establishment experts. They don't even have cultivators, only martial artists. As for the 4th level hidden sects, like the Starry Palace, there are hundreds of foundation establishment immortal masters and even 1 golden core expert. Once there are 3 or more golden core experts, they can reach the top of the 3rd level hidden sects. The 3rd level hidden sects have the right to collect annual tributes from the 4th level hidden sections. These tributes are basically made up of cultivation resources. It is said that the palace master of the Starry Palace, Taoist Heaven and Earthly Long Yuan, has a golden core cultivation. But he still wants to cultivate 3 golden cores and reach the 3rd level hidden sect. This way, they can collect resources from the other 4th level hidden sects and even occupy their training grounds. So they can occupy the other small worlds of the hidden sects. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed as he interrupted. That's right, and the other party can't resist and willingly give up their training grounds. Otherwise, they will be attacked by the crowd. Xiao Yingluo interrupted. Because there is a hidden sect alliance to maintain order between the hidden sections. What my brother said are the rules and laws set by the hidden sect alliance. Also, there is trade between the hidden sects. Chapter 885. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. This information was not found in their divine souls. Because they had self-destructed their divine souls at the last moment, unwilling to let Jiang Tian find any useful information. But a golden core expert is too difficult to cultivate. As far as I know, the Starry Palace has a history of hundreds of years, but there hasn't been a single golden core expert before. Taoist Li Longyuan of Heaven and Earth was the first. Qiao Beishan frowned. Because the resources consumed are too huge, this small world may not be able to support it. The Qiao family's Hall of Divine Craftsmen, as well as many other families that refine weapons, beasts, and elixirs, have been asked by the Starry Palace to hand over many magic weapons and treasures, as well as tens of thousands of spirit stones as annual tributes. The Starry Palace used these tributes to exchange for resources with other hidden sections. They want to cultivate a few golden cores. But how can we hand them over? You can go to other hidden sects to earn money. The world is so vast. Jiang Tian smiled. The problem is that the trading rights between the hidden sects are now monopolized by the Starry Palace. Qiao Beishan spread out his hands. The teleportation array needs a crystal array pestle. And that mysterious array pattern is only controlled by the Starry Palace. And the teleportation array is usually guarded by disciples, so it's heavily guarded. It seems that something big has happened to the Starry Palace in the past few days. The disciples have been summoned to the sect for a meeting, so we have the opportunity to rob them today. Jiang Tian's heart moved. It seemed that the news of the death of Taoist Qing Xian had reached the Starry Palace, and they were discussing countermeasures. Xiao Beishan said with a dejected face. In short, we can't go to other hidden sects' small worlds through the teleportation array. I heard that the treasures we refine are very valuable in some small worlds, but they're cheap here. Xiao Yingluo also pouted and said bitterly. I've lived on this continent for 16 years and have never taken a step out. It's so boring. It'd be great to go to Earth to play. Yes, I heard that although Earth lacks spiritual energy, it's not small, and there are many strange things. It must be fun. Stinky Monkey's eyes were also shining, his face full of yearning. Beside him, Yitonren was very surprised. For thousands of years, countless cultivators on Earth had worked tirelessly and diligently. All of them hoped that one day they would be able to ascend to the insect world. But he didn't expect that the immortals here actually wanted to go to Earth to play. I understand. Jiang Tian nodded. The Starry Sky Palace was a bit closed off from the outside world and had a high degree of centralization of power. Furthermore, it had already formed a huge rentier class, and the social hierarchy was seriously solidified. It was no wonder. The floating heavenly star continent was ultimately too small to support a vigorous cultivation civilization. However, it had already formed a cultivation country with the Starry Sky Palace as its core. There were 4 major cities, 3 major sects, and more than 30 small sections. In this place, martial artists belonged to the lower class. Only deity realm martial artists were considered middle class. Cultivators, on the other hand, were a nobleman. Once someone offended them, they would be severely punished. And the number 1 cultivation sect, the Starry Sky Palace, had supreme power. The palace master, heaven and earth Taoist, Li Longyuan, was like an ancient emperor. His words carried enormous weight. The city lords and sect masters of all the cities had to be conferred titles and serve him. The city where Qingyang Town was located was called Border City. It was the smallest of the 4 major cities, with a population of 1 million. Qingyang Town was just one of the many cities and towns under its jurisdiction. At this moment, Qingyang Town was in sight. The town had a population of 100,000. A straight bluestone road led to the outside of the town. The buildings were simple and unadorned, in the style of the Han and Tang dynasties. Wine flags were swaying. Inns, restaurants, blacksmiths, medical centers, and brothels were all present. It was very prosperous. Occasionally, someone would ride a strong horse and gallop past. Standing here, Jiang Tian felt as if he had entered the land of peach blossoms written by Tao Yuanming. But thinking about it, it was not strange. For hundreds of years, this place had been isolated from the world. The people inside could not go out, and the people outside could not come in. It was like a parallel universe. Only those at the top of the 2 worlds could reach the other big world. That was why this ancient style was maintained. But, Immortal Master Jiang, my father is cowardly and has never supported us attacking the people of the Starry Sky Palace. Please don't reveal anything. Otherwise, we will be in trouble. Xiao Beishan begged bitterly. We will be beaten to death. The Stinky Monkey's face was also full of fear, and his voice was trembling. Don't worry. I won't say anything. But you can't reveal my identity to anyone for the time being. Jiang Tian withdrew his thoughts and smiled. Understood. They quickly arrived at Qingyang Town along the Bluestone Road. Along the way, Jiang Tian found that almost all the peddlers here had cultivation above the inner strength. On Earth, they could easily control a city and intimidate a region. But here, they were like carps crossing the river. After a while, they came to an extraordinary shop. Above the lintel, there was a black plaque gilded with gold. A few words were written on it, Divine Craftsman Hall. The shop was 5 stories high. From time to time, Cultivators came and went to buy magical weapons, sell refining materials, or commission others to make. It was very lively. They all used a kind of low-level crystal, the 5-essence crystal, which was more common in the cultivation world. But the spiritual chi was much more abundant than the ordinary chalcedony on Earth. If taken to Earth, one piece would be worth millions. The backyard was very wide, about 100 acres. It was simple and practical with green bricks and gray tiles. There was a faint tinkling sound, and from time to time, smoke and fire appeared. It seemed to be the place where refining was done. Jiang Tian scanned the area with his divine sense, and immediately, he encountered a spiritual power restriction, which blocked his divine sense. The Qiao family is autocratic, plagiarism is not allowed. This restriction showed a few words in Jiang Tian's mind. Interesting. Jiang Tian smiled. It seemed that the heavenly star space had a patent protection system. This restriction should have been set up by a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. Jiang Tian's divine sense could completely penetrate it. But Jiang Tian still didn't try. First, it would cause unnecessary misunderstandings. Second, in terms of refining, how many people in the universe could surpass him? Mr. Jiang, this is my house. Please. Qiao Beishan made a gesture of invitation and let Jiang Tian in. Shan, hello, what have you been doing? As soon as they entered the door, a scolding voice came. A man with a fair complexion, wearing a long silk robe and 3 locks of beard walked out from the backyard. He was about 40 years old with white hair. With his hands behind his back, he glared and scolded with a stern voice. Instead of staying at home and preparing for the Heavenly Star Palace's outer sect examination, you'll regret it for the rest of your life if you fail. I've worked so hard to refine weapons and provide for your cultivation. Isn't it so that you can become part of the palace one day? Jiang Tian scanned with his divine sense. This person was also a transcendent realm cultivator. His hands were slender, but there were deep calluses on his fingertips. His body exuded a faint smell of smoke. He should be an expert in refining weapons. Dad, I'm not going to take the Heavenly Star Palace's outer sect exam. I don't want to be a bully. Qiao Yingluo pouted and said disdainfully. Qiao Huayin was slightly stunned. Then, he showed some sadness and said with emotion, "What do you know? In today's world, other than bullying others, you're being bullied. There's no other way." Qiao Beishan picked up a teapot, lifted the lid, and gulped down the tea. He wiped his mouth and said casually, "Dad, why are you an outer sect disciple?" "Dad, why should I be an outer disciple of the Starry Sky Palace? Isn't it good for me to inherit your skills? When I passed away, I left behind my last words. The skills passed down by my ancestors can't be lost." Slap. Qiao Huayin raised his hand and slapped him. There was a loud bang. Qiao Beishan was slapped to the ground like a toad. No, to be exact, he sank directly into the marble floor. Next to him, Lu Dehu and Qiao Yingluo were so scared that they trembled and felt their hearts ache. Qiao Huayin shouted angrily, "Bastard, how dare you talk back to your old man? You're quite capable. Nowadays, what's better than being a public servant? That's an iron rice bowl. The salary of an outer sect disciple of the Heavenly Star Palace is equivalent to the salary of hundreds of workers in the Divine Craftsman Hall. Do you think we have too many crystals?" Jiang Tian and Yi Tianren looked at each other and smiled. This scene was too common in the secular world on Earth. Parents forcing their children. "Dad, it's okay for you to hit me, but isn't this laying the floor tiles?" Qiao Beishan climbed up from the pit. His face was covered in dust and the marble particles were rolling down. He complained gloomily, "Dad, after all, there are guests here. Can't you give me some face? I'm an adult, after all." Only then did Qiao Huayin notice the presence of Jiang Tian and Qiao Yingluo. He quickly bowed and said with a professional smile, "Oh, it turns out that there are distinguished guests. Old Qiao, I'm sorry for my lack of manners. Please forgive me." "It's okay. Boss Qiao, you're too polite." Jiang Tian stood up and returned the greeting. Jiang Tian returned the greeting. Qiao Huayin poured a cup of tea for Jiang Tian and said with a smile, May I know where you're from and what's your Taoist name? My surname is Jiang. I'm an itinerant cultivator. I happen to wander here. This is my disciple Old Yi. Jiang Tian said lightly. Immortal Master Jiang is an immortal state expert, so powerful. Xiao Yingluo said with admiration. An itinerant cultivator. Ha, so you're an expert. Xiao Huayin was still smiling, but he was secretly disappointed. In this place, itinerant cultivators had no status, even if their cultivation was high. Only the cultivators of the Tianqing Palace could. However, under Xiao Yingluo's persuasion, the stingy Xiao Huayin finally allowed Jiang Tian to stay. Anyway, Xiao Huayin's family business was not small and did not lack Jiang Tian's food. There were also a few clean and elegant guest rooms. Immortal Master Jiang, on Earth, does every house have electricity? Isn't it only Thunder Foundation establishment experts who can create electricity? Do the women there really not need a matchmaker to fall in love with someone and choose their own husband? Why can the people and animals in this magical artifact called mobile phone move? Could it be a very advanced mirage array? Xiao Yingluo was very interested in the things on Earth. Every day, in addition to helping Jiang Tian clean up the house, serve food, and take Jiang Tian to wander around the town, she pestered Jiang Tian to ask him all kinds of questions. Chapter 886. You don't have to call me Master Immortal. Just call me Big Brother. Jiang Tian liked this girl's naivety very much and patiently explained, Earth belongs to another civilization. It uses technology as its foundation. This kind of technology is actually a bit like refining in formations. It pays attention to the use of external material resources and is very weak in itself. For the past few days, Jiang Tian had flipped through several bookstores in town, mainly to read books on geography and geography. He read very quickly and carefully learned about geography, rivers, minerals, spirit herbs, spirit insects, fire seeds, strange water, demon beasts, and so on, as well as the history of Heavenly Star Small World. As for sex and forces, Jiang Tian didn't care too much. Jiang Tian was now at the first level of the foundation establishment stage, but his physique and cultivation method were extremely powerful and could kill all the powerhouses at the foundation establishment stage. On this continent, he was almost invincible. Even facing the Heavenly Star Palace Master Li Longyuan, Heaven and Earth Taoist, he was not afraid. Jiang Tian was shocked when he saw this. In this Heavenly Star Small World, there were many demon beasts, minerals, strange water, and strange fire that only existed in the cultivation world. It was just that their names were different. If the hypothesis that Star World was a part of ancient Earth was true, based on this, it could be inferred that ancient Earth must also be a cultivation planet. It was a cultivation planet with rich spiritual energy, spirit herbs like smoke and sea, demon beasts running rampant, and immortals walking on Earth. However, after the spiritual energy on Earth was exhausted, spirit herbs, spirit beasts, and so on gradually died out. But in Heavenly Star Small World, they were still preserved, and because of the extreme instability of the spiritual energy, there were many evolutions. On this day, in the guest room of the Qiao family, it seems that this trip to Heavenly Star Small World is not in vain. I will definitely get a lot of benefits. Jiang Tian, dressed in white, sat cross-legged in front of the window, flipping through the pages and sighing with relief. At this moment, suddenly, there was a burst of dust on the street. Everyone ran wildly, and some people shouted as if they had seen a wolf, "Oh no! Si Quan is here! Oh my God, the city patrol department is here!" Xiao Huayin, who was sitting in the back hall, had a drastic change in expression. With a wave of his hands, the two doors swung shut despite the lack of wind. While outside the door, a large wooden board hung down from the lintel, with the words, "Permanent Closure," written on it. At the same time, the many crafting furnaces, cutting knives, and reactors in the courtyard all stopped after a wail. Many master craftsmen and skilled craftsmen all burrowed into the hole in an instant. The City Patrol Department was a city management department specially set up by Fang Jingqiang, the city lord of Desolate City. They were led by a few constables from the Department of Investigation Services who had no rank at all. Thousands of rogue cultivators were employed, but none of them were paid a regular salary. Usually, they relied on collecting coins from small vendors and the carriages and aircrafts parked everywhere to make a living. Not only would they be able to live a comfortable life, but they would also be able to generate income for Border City. More than 10 experts of the City Patrol Department rode on black hounds, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. These hounds had absorbed enough spiritual energy and had evolved to the extreme. They were as tall as healthy horses and calves. They were ferocious. Their claws were like steel hooks, and their white canine teeth were like daggers. Long drool hung from their mouths. They were very intimidating. More than 10 experts from the Department of Investigation Services were assigned to be the leaders. They were all in the late stage of the chi refinement stage, and their clothes were relatively uniform. The embroidery on their chest patches was not the red-crowned crane, pheasant, peacock, or heron of the civil officials, nor was it the five-piece qilin, white tiger, lion, rhinoceros, or other ferocious beasts. Instead, it was a very distinctive fierce dog. In addition, there were also some rogue cultivators who had dragons and tigers tattooed on their arms. Their eyes were ferocious and murderous. At first glance, one could tell that they were not easy to deal with. Their clothes were not uniform, but they all wore an aqua-green waistcoat with a big white circle in front of their chests. Inside the circle, there was a big black word, Association, written in large black. The arrival of the City Patrol Department caught many small vendors off guard. They hurriedly packed up the things they were selling and ran away, trying to escape unscathed. However, the association officers were very experienced in fighting. They had already occupied all the key positions and blocked all the escape routes. Each of them waved a type of thunder and lightning magic weapon and hit anyone they saw. With just a pestle, anyone who came into contact with it would fall down, twitching on the ground as if they had been hit by a pendulum. The City Patrol Department members were like bandits entering a village. They robbed everything they saw, whether it was crystals, magic weapons, spirit grains, spirit plants, spirit herbs, or small spirit beasts. The people who were robbed were angry but did not dare to say anything. Sigh. When will these days come to an end? Qiao Huayin walked into the courtyard and sighed deeply. His face was full of sorrow. In the guest room, Yi Tunren was stunned. He whispered to Jiang Tian, "This is the world of immortals? This is hell on earth." Vulgar, unbearably vulgar. Such a scene was not uncommon on Earth. It was clearly a city management team bullying small merchants and peddlers. Do you think that the cultivation world is otherworldly? Jiang Tian chuckled and said sarcastically, "The cultivation world is 10 times crueler and bloodier than Earth." At this moment, the door of the Hall of Gods was kicked to smithereens. Then, a group of City Patrol Department members rushed in like a tide. The leader of the group was riding a black hound. He swaggered into the backyard and roared sternly, "Qiao Huayin, you seem to have started work. It's time to pay the spiritual energy repair fee." "Captain Ma, you must be joking. We have stopped work for 3 months. How could we have started work?" Qiao Huayin stepped forward with a face full of joy. He cupped his hands towards Captain Ma, who was in the lead, and handed over a large cloth bag from his wide sleeve. "You have worked hard. This is a small gift. Buy some tea with the officers." Qiao Yingluo glared at her father in disdain. She seemed to think that he was too much of an accomplice. Qiao Beishan clenched his fists, but in the end he could only swallow his anger and endure. At this time, a City Patrol Department member walked quickly into the many weapon refining rooms and shouted, "Captain, the reactor and furnace are all hot. They have started work." Ma Liang tossed the cloth bag full of crystal stones in his hand and sneered, "The purification array in your Hall of Gods is not up to standard. Without the qualification certificate, you can't start work." His face turned cold and his eyes were as sharp as a knife. He shouted, "Work without permission. According to the law, you should be beheaded." Swish, swish. Many of the City Patrol Department members and assistants pulled out their long swords and knives. Suddenly, a cold light flashed and the temperature of the entire hall plummeted. Xiao Huayin was so scared that he knelt on the ground with a thud. He trembled and said with a pale face, "Captain Ma, please be merciful. Please excuse me. The tribute division of the border city has received our tribute for 10 years. I still owe the tribute division 3 years' worth of tribute. If I don't pay, they will arrest me. That's their business. I can't control it." Ma Liang smiled disdainfully and said coldly, "I only know that if you work in violation of regulations, you will be beheaded. Don't you know that the city lord wants green mountains and clear water, blue sky and white clouds? The spiritual energy has been polluted. How can we cultivate and advance? How can we become a third-level hidden sect? Can you be reasonable? Do you want to force us to our deaths?" Xiao Yingluo was so angry that her face turned red. She shouted, "We are human beings, not your slaves. Xiao Huayin, you look average. I didn't expect your daughter to be so pretty." Captain Ma Liang smiled and said, "How about this? Let her have a drink with me tonight. If she has a good time, we won't talk about this anymore. My daughter is still young and immature. Please forgive her this time." Xiao Huayin was so scared that his face turned pale. He quickly took out a short sword from his pocket and stuffed it into Ma Liang's hands. "It's a quasi-spiritual treasure. I spent 3 years to make it. It's worth 55,000 crystals. Please do me a favor." "Okay, since you are filial, I won't make things difficult for you. Your temper is too bad. You have to teach her a lesson." Captain Ma smiled and drove the giant dog out of the door. "Captain Ma, don't worry. I will teach her a lesson. Come here often. Take care." Xiao Huayin heaved a sigh of relief and got up to send him off. His face was full of joy and he spoke humbly. Originally, this matter would have been settled. Xiao Huayin would have to pay to avoid disaster. Captain Ma would collect the black money and go to the brothel to have a good time. This kind of thing had happened countless times in Qingyang town and the border cities. It always ended like this. However, when Captain Ma rode the black dog to the door of the courtyard, suddenly, his malicious gaze fell on Jiang Tian and Yi Tianren who were standing in front of the window. His face darkened. He smiled maliciously and said coldly, "You're right. Old Xiao, these two look unfamiliar. Are they foreigners? Where are they from? Do they have temporary residence documents?" Chapter 887. The two of them are itinerant cultivators. They just arrived in town and haven't had the time to apply for temporary residence documents. Xiao Huayin quickly smiled and said humbly, "Sir, look, I've already paid my respects to you. Please do us a favor. I'll take them to apply for temporary residence documents in the afternoon." "That won't do. You know that there are spirit gathering formations in our town and city. It costs a lot." Captain Ma kicked him away. He pointed the dog whip at Jiang Tian and said coldly, "The two of you, and the two of you. The two of you and this big black dog entered the town without paying the crystal stones and obtaining the temporary residence documents. You are living here illegally. Either you pay me 30,005 crystals, or I'll put you in jail and chop off your heads." In the Heavenly Star Small World, Star Capital, Nuteo, Floating Spear, and many other towns and cities had spirit-gathering formations of varying sizes. The spirit chi there was much more abundant than in the wild. Moreover, the spirit chi in the cities had been purified by the formations. There was no miasma, which was very beneficial to cultivation. Of course, the spirit chi was the most abundant in the Heavenly Star Palace, Heartless Sect, Giant Sword Sect, Demon Subduing Temple, and other large sections. After all, they occupied famous mountains, great rivers, and blessed lands. They also had more magical spirit-gathering formations. However, the Heavenly Star Palace and the other large sects had stricter requirements for disciples. Not everyone could enter. Even if you had crystals, you couldn't enter if you didn't have the talent. Therefore, for itinerant cultivators with average talent, living in the big cities was still their best choice. Of course, the spirit-gathering formations cost a lot of money. The big cities wouldn't do a good deed for free. Residents had to spend a lot of money to buy a house. Those who came to live temporarily also had to pay a certain amount of 5 crystals to obtain a temporary residence document. To absorb spirit chi, one had to breathe. Therefore, whether it was to buy a house in the town or to obtain a temporary residence document, the cost of crystals was called breathing tax by martial artists and cultivators. Breathing is a tax. Immortals don't have freedom at all. Back then, when Celestial Yi heard this news, he was stupefied. It was as if he was listening to a heavenly book, not daring to believe it. Civilization at any level needs to rely on resources. There's no exception. Jiang Tian sighed. In fact, the higher the level of the civilization, the crazier the consumption of resources, and the more aggressive they were. While several city patrol members immediately surrounded Jiang Tian and Li Wuyo. They coldly scolded, "Captain Ma has spoken. Why aren't you kneeling down and begging for mercy? Do you want to die? Where did this rogue cultivator ant come from? You don't know what's good for you. Hurry up and plead guilty. Ha, you dare to be arrogant with me? Don't provoke me. If you speak any more nonsense, I'll kill you." Jiang Tian stood in front of the window and sipped his tea. A faint killing intent flashed in his eyes. Originally, he wanted to capture the leader first to capture the bandits. He only wanted to kill the palace master of the Celestial Palace, Li Longyuan. He didn't expect to see all kinds of injustice as soon as he came to the town. It seems that this heavenly star small world is really rotten. Let's smash it. Hee, you dare to defy the law? You're courting death. Captain Ma's thunderous roar caused the wind to howl. The entire hall of divine crafts and even the long street fell silent. Everyone was so shocked that their hearts raced. Their faces were pale, and they trembled. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Captain Ma, who patrolled the streets, had the nickname of Gui Jianqiu. He was also an outer disciple of the Celestial Palace and the brother-in-law of the Barren City's city lord. He killed people at the drop of a hat. Everyone had been bullied by him for more than 10 years. When did they have the slightest thought of resisting? Captain Ma, this immortal Master Jiang has the cultivation of the immortal state. You can't afford to offend him. Xiao Yingluo said angrily. Luo, shut up. How can you talk to Captain Ma like that? Go back. Xiao Huayin shouted at his daughter and then said boldly, "This immortal Master Jiang is indeed quite capable. He may rise to a high position in the future. Why don't you leave some leeway for the old man and leave a way out for yourself? I'm enforcing the law. Who are you to criticize me?" Captain Ma raised his dog whip and lashed it at Xiao Huayin. Xiao Huayin's skin was torn open, and he flew out with blood spurting out of his mouth. "Captain Ma, why do you hit people at the drop of a hat? What crime have we committed?" Xiao Yingluo helped her father up. Bean-sized tears rolled down her face as she stared at Captain Ma with resentment. Xiao Beishan, Lu Dehu, and a few other young weapon refiners stepped forward. They were furious and murderous. "How dare you? If you dare to talk like that again, I'll burn down your weapon refining hall. I'll execute your whole family," a patrolling member shouted angrily. The Qiao family felt a chill in their hearts as they remembered Captain Ma's cruel means. Previously, he had taken a fancy to the daughter-in-law of the Li family, a wealthy alchemist family, and wanted to marry her. The Li family had complained and resisted, but the patrolling members had arrested them all in the name of causing trouble and executed their whole family. The Li family's daughter-in-law had also committed suicide after being humiliated. In Qingyang town, other than Mayor Lu Xing, he was the most difficult person to offend. He was simply a living king of hell. Captain Ma looked at Jiang Tian mockingly as if he was looking at an ant. He said disdainfully, "What bullshit, immortal master, I think he's just an ordinary person." Suddenly, a few traces of ridicule appeared on his face. "Hey, maybe this kid is also a liar. And the Qiao family is just a hostage. We must arrest them all." At this time, Jiang Tian's divine aura was restrained and his true essence did not leak out at all. From the outside, he looked no different from an ordinary person. Xiao Yingluo was shocked and tears came out of her beautiful eyes. She thought desperately, "Who can save my family? This is really an unexpected disaster. She looked at Jiang Tian for help, hoping that Jiang Tian would help her. It was as if she was looking at a life-saving straw. That's fine. Let's start this bloody massacre by killing these bastards. Jiang Tian smiled coldly and stepped forward step by step. His eyes were as cold as a cold knife. "Ha kid, you're scared. Do you know the consequences of offending me? Are you going to kowtow to me?" Captain Ma sat high on the back of the vicious dog, arrogant and arrogant. He said with a mocking face, "But it's a bit late. I'm going to raise the price. 150,005 essence crystals and I'll spare your life. I'm wondering who gave you the courage to be so presumptuous in front of me." Jiang Tian walked closer and suddenly let out a cold laugh and directly attacked. Bang! Jiang Tian flicked his finger and a golden ray of light broke through the air. Bang! A bloody hole appeared in Captain Ma's chest and he rolled off the dog's back. His eyes were still wide open, full of shock and unwillingness, as if he couldn't believe that he would die in such a tragic way. The mutated evil dog bared its teeth and roared at Jiang Tian. "You don't deserve to be a dog." The old dragon in the form of a big black dog slapped out with its paw and smashed the evil dog into pieces. In an instant, everyone was dumbfounded and gasped as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. How could this young man be so bold as to attack an officer of the city patrol unit? Moreover, his cultivation was so powerful. Captain Ma was an immortal state warrior, but he was killed by Jiang Tian's finger. Even the members of the street patrol department did not realize what was going on. They stood there in a daze and looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. They had done all kinds of evil and had never faced any resistance. Now they couldn't come back to their senses. "Fellow cultivator, where are you from? How could you obstruct law enforcement and kill people on the street? Are you a cultivator from the Heavenly Star Palace who came to the mortal world to gain experience?" A member of the city patrol unit asked in a low voice. Although the Heavenly Star small world had an organizational structure similar to that of a political regime, it was still different from Earth. Although there was order in this world, the strong were still respected. With a powerful cultivation, one would have the right to speak. Many rogue cultivators who killed and robbed would be pardoned by the cities and sects as long as their cultivation was strong enough. Therefore, when they saw that Jiang Tian's cultivation was strong, they immediately changed the way they addressed him and gave in a little. "What bullshit Heavenly Star Palace? I'm not a member of the Heavenly Star Palace, so I can't kill people?" Jiang Tian smiled disdainfully and said, "You give the money you plundered to these townspeople and kneel down to apologize. Otherwise, I will kill all of you and leave no one alive." An enormous pressure suddenly retreated. Many of the evil dogs were scared to the point that they lowered their heads and curled up. They staggered back and whimpered. The members of the city patrol unit were also frightened by Jiang Tian's monstrous murderous aura and stepped back subconsciously. Chapter 888. It took a few seconds for the patrol members to react and their faces turned furious. One of the transcendent state overlords raised his blade and shouted, "How dare you? Do you know how powerful our division chief is? He's an overlord at the 9th level of chi refinement. You can't provoke him." As soon as he said that, the other patrol members also approached Jiang Tian and the encirclement gradually shrank. They were full of fighting spirit and murderous intent as they shouted, "The street patrol department is inviolable. We are the most powerful force in the entire Heavenly Star small world. The city lord once encouraged us to be the vanguard when we attack Earth in the future. Kid, you'd better surrender, otherwise we'll cut you into pieces. Even if you're lucky enough to escape, our division chief will kill you." "Ha, you really won't give up until you see the coffin." Jiang Tian sneered and slapped. Boom. The slap landed squarely on a patrol member's body. Boom. This person directly exploded, and a bloody mist filled the air. Sparkling and translucent flesh rained down from the sky. "Kill him. He's an overlord. Don't show any mercy. Kill him. Dogs, go bite him." Whoosh. The remaining 7 or 8 city patrol members all jumped up from the back of the dog, each holding a long blade, and charged towards Jiang Tian from all directions. They had all reached the transcendent state and were powerful overlords on Earth. Even an immortal state cultivator would have trouble dealing with them when they attacked in unison. At the same time, 8 ferocious dogs the size of calves also opened their bloody mouths and bit towards Jiang Tian. Heavenly beings, don't you want to kill deities? They're low-level deities. Kill them. Jiang Tian said coldly. Celestial Leaf was infuriated and directly attacked. Swish, swish, swish. The shattering iron sword shot out like a bolt of lightning. It was incomparably sharp and instantly broke through the sound barrier. Oh no, he's an overlord. Let's retreat. Division Chief, we need help. Heavenly Star Palace's law enforcement team, please suppress them. The rest of the assistants were so scared that their souls were about to leave their bodies. Their faces were pale as they scrambled to run out of the door, trying to get reinforcements to make a comeback. But how could Yi Tianren give them the chance to do so? The flying iron sword instantly transformed into a cold light that was like a waterfall. It swept out like a rainbow that pierced through the sun. It was extremely dazzling and dazzling. In the blink of an eye, it flew into the sheath on Yi Tianren's back. In the eyes of the crowd, it was just a blur. The assistant management team members froze in their tracks, not moving an inch. Why aren't you running? Just as everyone was stunned and confused, a sharp sound rang out. A circle of blood appeared on everyone's necks, and then blood spurted out from their necks like a fountain. Heads flew more than 10 meters away like footballs. Everyone was dumbfounded, not daring to believe it. They didn't expect Jiang Tian and the others to act so decisively. They killed more than 30 patrollers and assistants in an instant. They were simply audacious. Immortal Master Jiang, you look so cool when you kill people. A moment later, Xiao Yingluo's face was full of adoration as she cheered. Domineering. Xiao Beishan waved his fist heavily, his face red with excitement. Immortal Master Jiang, you're my idol. The stinky monkey was so happy that he did 3 backflips in a row. They had been bullied by these patrollers and had long wanted to kill them, but they didn't have the guts. At most, they dared to hit them with a stick. But Xiao Beishan's face was bitter. He stared at Jiang Tian with a complicated gaze. No one knew what he was thinking. Everyone, come and collect your things. Jiang Tian said lightly. The Heavenly Star Hidden Sect world was still a relatively low-level cultivation civilization. Storage artifacts were still rare. These patrollers were still using backpacks and didn't have artifacts like storage bags or sumera rings. The many spirit stones and artifacts that they had just plundered were in the backpacks. Jiang Tian's face was calm. He took off the backpack unhurriedly and threw it on the ground. Take it away. But many of the neighbors, vendors, and customers didn't dare to come forward. They looked at Jiang Tian as if he were a snake and stepped back step by step. A moment later, everyone disappeared. Xiao Huayin stepped forward and clasped his hands. Immortal Master Jiang, you acted righteously and killed the evil thieves. I am very grateful. You're welcome. They were looking for trouble with me, so I killed them. It's only natural. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. Xiao Huayin's face was a little worried. But Immortal Master Jiang, you're in big trouble. You killed the patrollers, which is tantamount to provoking the entire border city. And the Heavenly Star Palace is behind the border city. What awaits you next is an endless pursuit. There are countless experts. The Heavenly Star Palace seems to have 300 Foundation Establishment experts and 1 Golden Core expert? Jiang Tian asked faintly. You knew, and you still dared to do it? Xiao Huayin looked at Jiang Tian as if he was crazy. I can kill a Golden Core expert with a lift of my hand. Jiang Tian sneered. Xiao Huayin shook his head. Obviously, he didn't have much confidence in Jiang Tian, but he was too lazy to expose him. Immortal Master Jiang, your cultivation is extraordinary. I'm afraid you're in the immortal realm, or even in the Foundation Establishment realm. I'd like to find a way out for you. Xiao Huayin's face turned cold. Jiang Tian was slightly stunned. Xiao Huayin showed a faint arrogance and said, "To be honest, I'm from the Jade Well Trading Company, Feng Yonghui." Jade Well Trading Company, Feng Yonghui? Who is he? Jiang Tian frowned and asked. Beside him, Xiao Yingluo had already exclaimed, her beautiful eyes sparkling with admiration. Which Feng Yonghui can there be? Of course it's the Heavenly Star Palace's #1 smuggling tycoon, Chu Yonghui. In the entire Heavenly Star small world, more than half of the smuggled goods are made by him. Dad, it turns out that the magical weapons you refined were all given to Uncle Chu Yonghui. Because of Chu Yonghui, she suddenly had a whole new level of respect for her father. Xiao Huayin slammed the table and made up his mind. Immortal Master Jiang killed the people of the City Patrol Department. I'm afraid this matter won't end well, and we'll all be implicated. Since we've already started, let's go. He immediately dismissed his disciples and packed up his belongings. Then, he put his middle finger between his lips and made a few sharp whistles. Suddenly, 6 huge eagles with 10-meter-long wings appeared. They were incomparably handsome, and their feathers were as sharp as steel blades. Their sharp claws flashed with cold light as they crossed the sky, rolling up a gust of wind and landing in the courtyard. Oh my God, the giant back eagles. Dad, you actually have 6 giant back eagles. That's amazing. Seeing this, Xiao Yingluo's beautiful eyes flashed with excitement. Her face was full of shock and disbelief. These giant back eagles were very expensive. Each one was worth hundreds of thousands of 5 essence crystals. They flew extremely fast and could travel 1,000 miles in a day. Humph, if Dad wants to work for Peak Master Feng Yonghui, of course he has to have some foundation. Immortal Master Jiang, let's go. Xiao Huayin put his hands behind his back and raised his chin slightly. A touch of lofty pride appeared on his face. Jiang Tian nodded. For Jiang Tian, coming to the Heavenly Star small world was firstly to intimidate the Heavenly Star Palace and kill them until they didn't dare to covet the secular world. Secondly, to find opportunities to break through to the second level of foundation establishment or even higher. Thirdly, to understand the secrets of the ruins of immortality. From what he heard, Chu Yonghui, as a lawless space smuggler, should have a lot of information and resources. It would be good to get to know him and use him. The few of them climbed onto the back of one of the giant back eagles. This giant back eagle lived up to its name. Its back was wide and large, and there were spacious seats installed on it that could seat 5 or 6 people. It was very comfortable. The remaining 5 giant back eagles were filled with Dharma artifacts, Dharma treasures, and many raw materials. But compared to what they had abandoned, it was just a drop in the ocean. In addition, there were a few craftsmen who swore to follow Xiao Huayin. After packing up, at Xiao Huayin's whistle, the 6 giant back eagles flapped their wings and flew into the distance. Xiao Huayin stared at the Hall of Divine Craftsmen reluctantly. His eyes were slightly red as he sighed. 3 generations, 200 years of hard work. In the end, we can't do it anymore. The annual tribute is too heavy. This world doesn't let people live. We can't let them off so easily. Xiao Beishan's face was filled with grief and indignation. Suddenly, he took out a few thunder talismans and threw them at the Hall of Divine Craftsmen. Ashan, what are you doing? Xiao Huayin shouted. But the thunder talismans had already exploded. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, the earth shook and the mountains shook. Walls collapsed and houses collapsed. Flames rose into the sky, and billowing black smoke rose into the sky. Huge craftsmen's furnaces were torn apart. Reaction furnaces the size of millstones were shot into the sky from the black smoke and flames. Countless crystal pieces were turned into powder. In seconds, the Hall of Divine Craftsmen, which had a long history of 200 years, was engulfed in a sea of fire and turned into ruins. Yes, we can't come back anyway. Xiao Huayin was stunned. Tears finally rolled down his face, but he just shook his head and said nothing. After this incident, they would be condemned in the future and could no longer live in the sun. The Hall of Divine Craftsmen could only be confiscated and given to the Starry Sky Palace. It was better to destroy it. Sure enough, just 15 minutes after Jiang Tian and the others left, The patrolling experts came one after another. It seems that there is an immortal state expert here. After checking the scene, the expert said in a low voice, "What is this person's name? Find out immediately." A moment later, several neighbors were captured. After a round of torture, they immediately found out Jiang Tian's name. Kong Teichu? Since when did such an immortal state expert appear in a small place like Qinyang town? Everyone was doubtful. How can an immortal state expert be considered an expert? Judging from the direction, he must have fled to Demon Cave Mountain. His face was gloomy as he said in a low voice, "It seems that we have to go to Demon Cave Mountain immediately to capture this person." Although Ma Liang is not very capable, he is still the brother-in-law of the city lord of Border City. Chapter 889. Brother Qiao, if the old doesn't go, the new won't come. Don't be sad. Later, I'll give you a border city. Jiang Tian saw that Qiao Huayin was sad and kindly comforted him. Don't brag. Qiao Huayin smiled bitterly and shook his head. This little brother's strength wasn't bad, but he was too impulsive. Killing the patrol officers was equivalent to putting himself in a place of no return. As for returning a desolate city to him, that was simply nonsense. Dad, where are we going? Xiao Huolu's hair was pulled straight by the wind, and the muscles on her cheeks trembled as she shouted at the top of her lungs. To the Demon Cave Mountain, the mountain of sin. Qiao Huayin showed a look of yearning and responded loudly. The Demon Cave Mountain. Dad, so you have connections with the Demon Cave Mountain? Qiao Yingluo and the others were excited and in disbelief. You don't know, right? Chu Yonghui is the peak master of the Demon Cave Mountain's Jade Well Peak. Let's go and seek refuge with him. Qiao Huayin smiled. At the edge of the heavenly star space, there was a huge mountain range with a radius of 100 miles called the Demon Cave Mountain. Here, there were deep ravines and cliffs, undulating giant trees that covered the sky, and poisonous miasma filled the air. Evil beasts and poisonous insects were everywhere, and evil spirits ran rampant. It was extremely dangerous, and ordinary people were unwilling to enter. Moreover, the geological situation was complex and changeable, a bit similar to the karst landforms on Earth, but more complex and strange. The mountain was riddled with holes, and the underground rivers and holes were intertwined with each other like an ant's nest. According to statistics, the area of the underground world of the Demon Cave Mountain was more than 10 times the surface area. This became a natural barrier for the rebels to avoid the pursuit of the Heavenly Star Palace. There were 2 million people living here. Elusive killers, murderous bandits, insidious smugglers, contraband manufacturers and peddlers, black markets, casinos, and a series of black areas on the edge of the law were all gathered here. Therefore, the Demon Cave Mountain was also known as the Mountain of Sin, a lawless place, and the largest black market in the Heavenly Star small world. As long as you had enough crystals, you could buy pills with amazing effects but extremely unstable quality here. You could also buy many powerful offensive magical weapons that were banned by the Heavenly Star Palace. You could even buy treasures of unknown origin from other small worlds in the Heavenly Star small world. Even if he did not have crystals, he could still use his own strength to fight for a piece of the world in the exciting and blood-boiling casinos or fighting arenas. In fact, in the long river of history, the Starry Sky Palace had sent out troops to kill them many times, but every time, they returned in defeat. The reason for this was that behind the major forces of Demon Cave Mountain, there were many large sects, including the Heavenly Star Palace. Heavenly Star Titis want note have 8 Titis. Secondly, cultivators were human beings too. They had feelings too. After a long period of boring training and a stressful life of fighting, they would develop dark and negative feelings, and they needed an outlet to vent their feelings too. Most importantly, the spiritual energy in the Demon Cave Mountain was unstable and miasma pervaded, breeding a large number of demon beasts. As for the martial artists and cultivators who lived in Demon Cave Mountain, these lawless people, they were the first line of defense for humanity against the monster beasts. After all, they had to kill the demon beasts to survive here. In the heavenly star small world, an unspoken rule had gradually formed. Once a criminal escaped into the demon cave mountain, the righteous sects and major cities would no longer search for them. Where do you think Dad sold the magical weapons he refined? Half of them were sold to Chu Yonghui. Xiao Huayin smiled triumphantly. Then he showed a bit of anger and said coldly, "In this world, other than the heavenly star palace, everyone else has to starve to death. We have to find a way to survive. Master, don't be sad. I heard that Chu Yonghui loves talent very much. He'll definitely find a good job for Master Jiang." The stinky monkey said excitedly. "I can talk to Sister Chu Yunxiu. She's my sworn sister, and she likes to make magical weapons." Xiao Yingluo said sweetly. "Chu Yunxiu." Xiao Beishan and the stinky monkey looked at her with reverence, as if they had heard the name of a goddess. "Yes, 20th on the prodigy list. She can stand side by side with those Taoists, the son of the city lord, and the elites of the sects." Even Xiao Huayin showed some admiration. "Then," she said seriously, "although you often call each other sisters, that's just her casual words. You can't take it seriously. Her identity is too noble, we can't be friends with her." Chu Yunxiu was Chu Yonghui's only daughter, and her cultivation and skills were top-notch. She stepped into the first level of foundation establishment at a young age, controlled the Jade Well Trading Company, and was ranked 20th on the prodigy list. In this world, among the younger generation, only the 9 elite disciples of the Heavenly Star Palace, Fairy Miao Yi of the Heartless Sect, Monk De Exen of the Demon Subduing Temple, and Ding Lingdang, the beloved daughter of the Star Capital City Lord, could surpass her. Jiang Tian interrupted with a smile. "Yingluo, you can also make magic weapons?" "Ehe, they're just some simple life-type magical artifacts." Xiao Yingluo said a little shyly. "For example, a doll that can jump on time, a stick that can massage itself. I can only make ordinary magic weapons for combat." Jiang Tian nodded. "Dad, you're already a member of the Demon Cave Mountain, but you still want me to apply for the Heavenly Star Palace's outer sect?" Suddenly, Xiao Yingluo pouted. "Don't tell me you want me to catch you in the future? You're a contraband manufacturer, a smuggler." Xiao Huayin showed a bitter smile, shook his head, and sighed. "Child, it's just for a way to survive. I joined the Demon Cave Mountain just to eat, and you joined the Heavenly Star Palace just to eat. Dad, maybe the Demon Cave Mountain will overthrow the Heavenly Star Palace? Then wouldn't you be the founder of the sect?" Xiao Yingluo said with a smile. "Don't even think about it." Xiao Huayin shook his head and said flatly. "No matter what, the Heavenly Star Palace is the #1 sect, with a lot of talents and strong people. Although the Demon Cave Mountain has a large population, it can't compare to any of the 4 major cities, not to mention that there are several stronger sects in the 4 major cities. First of all, in terms of absolute power, it's a little weaker. Secondly, the peak masters there each have their own mountains, and everyone is unconvinced. They're like a plate of loose sand, so how can they possibly defeat the Heavenly Star Palace?" After flying for half an hour, the Demon Cave Mountain finally revealed its true appearance. This area was about 100 kilometers in radius. However, the altitude of the peaks was far higher than the mountain ranges on Earth. Most of them reached more than 5,000 meters, and the highest was even 10,000 meters high. Looking from afar, one could see numerous steep peaks densely packed together, like sharp swords pointing to the sky. At this time, the night was dark and the wind was strong, and the bright stars gathered into a huge vortex, tearing, colliding, and swallowing each other. From the center of the vortex, surging spiritual energy and colorful miasma aura were ejected, mixed with thunder as thick as an arm, blasting toward the mountains like a volcanic eruption. "Master, what is this?" Yi Tianren asked solemnly. This scene was too shocking. If a foundation establishment cultivator was swallowed by the vortex, they would probably be reduced to dust. This space is supported and stabilized by 3 huge arrays: a gravity simulation array, a space suspension array, and a heavenly cycle array. Jiang Tian's eyes lit up as he stared at the chaotic space and said in a deep voice, "Originally, the spiritual energy would fall from the surroundings and be attracted to the bottom of this space by the heavenly cycle array, then seep out from the mountains and plains. But too much time has passed, and many flaws have appeared in these arrays, causing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to become chaotic and unbalanced. The spiritual energy directly explodes from a point in the void, and under the influence of the gravity array, it bombards the ground. Jiang Tian's face was a little worried. Others might not be able to see it, but Jiang Tian could. These arrays could only last for 300 years at most. After 300 years, many of the arrays would collapse, and the entire continent would fall apart, turning into chaotic meteorite fragments. This might be the reason why the Starry Palace was the first to attack Earth among the many hidden sects. They could not afford to wait. Demon Cave Mountain has 7 main peaks, 9 caves, and 36 ridges. There are more than 50 big and small forces in total. Jade Well Peak is ranked 4th. Qiao Huayin introduced excitedly. The few giant back eagles were also experienced. Spreading their enormous wings, they skillfully avoided the turbulence of spiritual energy and the flashing lightning and flew toward a mountain that seemed to be glittering and translucent. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The giant back eagle landed on a raised platform halfway up the mountain. Qiao Huayin jumped down from the eagle's back and said with a face full of joy, "We're here." Jiang Tian looked around. He saw a cave winding into the mountain, and the words, "Jade Well Peak," were carved in stone above the cave entrance. The platform had a radius of a few hundred meters and was completely paved with high-quality jade. The sides of the cave entrance were carved with excellent water-quality jade into the shape of Pishio, Qilin, Taotai, and other ancient beasts. The carvings were exquisite, and the eyes were inlaid with all kinds of gemstones. The door was made of gold mixed with rare metals. It was indestructible and exuded a sense of heroism. The ceiling of the cave was inlaid with fist-sized luminous pearls, emitting a gentle halo. These things, be it exotic beasts, luminous pearls, gold, or even jade, would all be extremely rare treasures on Earth. They would be priceless. However, they could be found everywhere here. The wealth of Jade Well Peak was evident. Jade Well Peak was indeed one of the 7 main peaks and was blessed by nature. Standing on the platform and looking down at the mountains, it gave people a feeling of looking down at the mountains, making them feel proud. Moreover, there should be a huge spirit-gathering array in the mountain. Even though they were still outside the mountain, they could feel the abundant spiritual energy that was not inferior to the heavenly cycle eternal array. Such a sex aura and such a deep foundation were indeed shocking. Even Yi Tianren was secretly shocked. The sects on Earth, such as Ancient Wudong and Amei sect, were like country bumpkins in comparison. Perhaps only the Kunlun sect could compete with them. Bastards, who allowed you to come here? Do you know where this is? Get out. A guard quickly walked over and stopped them. His eyes were full of disdain as if he was looking at ants. When Jiang Tian saw this, his face darkened slightly. His eyes flickered with a sharp killing intent. Chapter 890. Although this Jade Well Peak looked oppressive, the people in charge of guarding it were all elite experts. Each of them was clad in dark gold armor and wielded a Dharma artifact. Their eyes shone brightly. All of them were at the peak of the transcendent state and were only one step away from the immortal state. No wonder Qiao Huayin had told Chen Fan that the annual income of the guards was more than that of a patrol captain. I am Qiao Huayin, the leader of the Divine Craftsman Hall in Qingyang Town. Jiang Tian was about to make a move when Qiao Huayin pulled him back. His face was full of joy as he cupped his fists and said respectfully, "You must have an invitation or an appointment before you can enter." The guard said disdainfully, "Our peak master is a prestigious figure. You think you can meet him?" Qiao Huayin smiled apologetically and said humbly, "I don't have an invitation, but I've been a supplier to our peak master. I've had a few drinks with our peak master. Now that I have something important to report to our peak master, please inform him." "Shoo shoo shoo, our Jade Well Peak has at least 800 if not 1,000 suppliers like you." The guard waved his hand as if he was shooing away a fly. He raised his eyebrows and said disdainfully, If anyone can see our peak master just because they want to, then peak master should stop doing business and just focus on receiving you. Xiao Huayin was embarrassed. He took out a bag of crystal stones and asked the guard to open the gate. However, the guard kicked him to the ground. You don't have to fight with me if you don't want to let us in. Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows and the sky-devouring magic gourd jumped up from his waist. He was about to behead the guard. Boss Qiao, why are you here instead of making a fortune in Qingyang town? At this moment, a low, muffled voice sounded. Everyone turned around and saw a fat man riding an equally fat white crane and landing on the platform. Boss Qiao is my friend. How can you make things difficult for him? Under the escort of a few attendants, he got off the white crane. With his chest puffed out and his hands behind his back, he walked over with a frown on his face and a displeased scolding. Hall Master Huang. Greetings, Hall Master Huang. The guards bowed to the newcomer in a very humble manner. Brother Huang Biao, you're back. Hurry up and tell your brothers to let me in. Xiao Huayin's face lit up as if he had seen his savior. Alas, what bad luck. The Hall of Divine Craftsmen has been exposed, and the patrolling officers of the border city have come to investigate. I have no choice but to seek refuge with the Peak Lord. A few patrolling dogs scared you to this extent? I thought you were the lackeys of the Department of Investigation Services. You're becoming more and more useless. Huang Biao smiled casually. Behind him, a few of his followers burst into laughter. They looked at Xiao Huayin as if he was a clown. Old Xiao, not just anyone can enter Jade Well Peak's entrance. The Peak Master's status is honorable, and not just anyone can meet him. Huang Biao was an immortal state cultivator and was the hall master of a branch. He was highly regarded by Chu Yonghui and his status was much higher than Xiao Huayin's. At this time, he was like a big shot inspecting the countryside, amiable and aloof. However, you have contributed to Jade Well Peak after all, and now you're in trouble. It's reasonable that I can't leave you alone. Thank you, Brother Huang. I knew it, you're always the most loyal. Xiao Huayin's face was full of joy and gratitude. At this time, Huang Biao's gaze swept across Jiang Tian, Yi Tianren, and the big black dog. He frowned and questioned unhappily. But you want to bring in these miscellaneous people and, more importantly, a black dog? What's the meaning of this? You're so insensible. Xiao Huayin's face stiffened, and he couldn't make a decision. Xiao Yingluo hurriedly said, Uncle Huang, this Mr. Jiang is a genuine immortal master. He's in the immortal state and even has a foundation establishment cultivation. He even killed a few patrolling dogs and saved our family. Just let him in. He's an immortal master, silly girl. You've been deceived, why can't I tell? When Huang Biao looked at Xiao Yingluo, a trace of affection appeared on his face. Although this girl's aptitude was average and she didn't have a good family background, she was a good match for his silly son. Really, Uncle Huang? If you don't let him in, then I won't go in either. I'll wander the world. Xiao Yingluo stomped her feet and pouted. She was originally beautiful and charming. Now that she was acting coquettishly and shamelessly, she was even more attractive and made people feel pity for her. Seeing this, Jiang Tian had a good impression of this girl. At least she knew how to repay kindness. Why don't you take a look at her physique and give her a few pointers? We can be considered acquaintances. Jiang Tian thought so and used his divine sense to scan Xiao Yingluo slightly, secretly praising her. Xiao Yingluo had the Ice Heart Jade Urn body, which was a type of water-type spirit body. Her physique was not bad and could be cultivated. Since you've done the Xiao family a favor and Yingluo has pleaded for you, then come in with me. Huang Biao patted Xiao Yingluo's head, then looked at Jiang Tian and arrogantly instructed and warned him. But you have to pay attention to your identity. Don't run around inside. Jade Well Peak is preparing for the annual meeting. If you offend a distinguished guest, it will be difficult to explain. Oh! Jiang Tian's eyes flickered, and he smiled faintly. It had been a long time since anyone dared to threaten him, the Taichu Celestial Venerable. Whether it was in his previous life, Jiang Tian had dominated hundreds of millions of star regions, or after his rebirth, he had shocked a star. Now, with his strength, he could pierce through Jade Well Peak with one sword and destroy it with a flick of his finger. But now, this fatty Huang dared to threaten him. "Let's go, brother Jiang. It's my first time at Jade Well Peak, and Chu Yunxiu is my best friend. I'll help you find her." After getting permission, Xiao Yingluo immediately pulled Jiang Tian into the cave excitedly. Jiang Tian narrowed his eyes slightly and glanced at Huang Biao, but he didn't make a move. Jiang Tian's divine sense had just scanned Demon Cave Mountain and found that spirit energy and miasma intertwined. Demon beasts were rampant, so there should be a lot of natural treasures here. He might even be able to find resources that could help him change his constitution from gold to black water. But he was unfamiliar with the place and needed Xiao Yingluo or someone from Jade Well Peak to be his guide. There was no need to kill an ant like Huang Biao at such a critical time and become enemies with Jade Well Peak. After Jiang Tian and Xiao Yingluo went in, Yi Tianren and the big black dog also followed in. Xiao Huayin walked into the cave while chatting with Huang Biao. "Hallmaster Huang, why did you say that the annual meeting of Jade Well Peak would be held in advance? The demon race isn't peaceful. It said that the great demon Bai Zhe has awakened. Recently, many demon races have joined forces and started a war repeatedly, trying to drive us away from Jade Well Peak." Huang Biao's face was solemn as he said in a low voice. "The demon race is about to come out." Xiao Huayin's expression changed drastically. He was so shocked that his whole body trembled. "And it's the great demon Bai Zhe. That's a legendary demon immortal. It's even stronger than a golden core expert. This Demon Cave Mountain was originally the territory of the demon race." Huang Biao said lightly. "But you don't have to worry. This time, we'll join forces with Jin Song Peak." "Jin Song Peak will join forces with us? Will Peak Master Jiang Haishan come?" Xiao Huayin couldn't believe it. Jin Song Peak was the strongest peak in Demon Cave Mountain. It had more than 30 Foundation establishment experts. Jin Song Peak was so powerful that it was a well-known existence in the entire Heavenly Star small world. Especially the Peak Master of Jin Song Peak, Jiang Haishan, who had reached the 5th level of Foundation establishment. He was known as a dragon among men. His cultivation, ability, and tactics were all excellent. He had once fought with the leaders of various sects and retreated calmly. In the entire Demon Cave Mountain, Jiang Haishan was a first-class expert and the most promising existence to unify Demon Cave Mountain. It was said that even the city lords of the 4 major cities and the sect masters of the 9 sects had a whole new level of respect for him. "I don't know if Jiang Haishan will come." Huang Biao shook his head and smiled mysteriously. "But Jiang Haishan's son, Jiang Yunhe, will definitely come. The reason why Jin Song Peak agreed to join forces with us is because the 2 peaks are going to be connected by marriage. Miss Yunxiu is going to marry Jiang Yunhe." Xiao Huayin's eyes lit up with excitement. He wanted to see the glory of Jiang Yunhe, a top genius. Not only was Jiang Yunhe from a famous sect, but he was also a talented and eye-catching person. He was only 25 years old, but he had already reached the 2nd level of Foundation establishment and was ranked 16th on the genius list. It was said that he had sparred with the Taoist of Qingxian before and was only slightly inferior. In the entire younger generation of Demon Cave Mountain, he was an outstanding figure in many famous mountains, caves, and lakes. That's right, Jiang Yunhe has already left the mountain. However, some cave masters, hall masters, and young talents of the younger generation are inviting him to a banquet. He will definitely come this year. Huang Biao said confidently. This marriage involves the 100-year plan of the 2 peaks and even the great cause of unifying Demon Cave Mountain. It can be said to be a grand event and the Peak Master values it very much. A grand event, this is really a grand event. Xiao Huayin's face was full of yearning as he sighed. But he could only sigh. After all, he was too far away from these tyrants and geniuses. He didn't even have the right to talk to them. Chapter 891. And Jiang Tian had already been pulled into Jade Well Peak by the little girl Xiao Yingluo. This jade well peak lived up to its name. It was hollow inside, like a deep well that led straight to the ground. The air was filled with the smell of rust and billowing heat waves. On the walls of the mountain, there were rooms, refining rooms, alchemy rooms, storage rooms, fighting arenas, markets of various sizes, either naturally formed or artificially excavated. There were hundreds of them densely packed together, but they were orderly and had distinct levels, just like an underground city. And there were plank roads and covered bridges connected, crisscrossing in midair like a spider web. Some of the cultivators of Jade Well Peak flew through the air on their flying swords, some rode on large birds, and even more rode on a platform that was like an elevator that was pulled by ropes like Jiang Tian and the others. Here, such ladders with power devices like wooden oxen and horses were called hanging ladders. In the casino, there were occasional hoarse shouts. In the fighting arena, there were sounds of fists and feet and swords clashing. In the market, there were whispers of bargaining. I heard that fighting competitions are held here every day, and there's even a casino where you can bet. Xiao Yingluo looked fascinated and rubbed her palms, not knowing if she wanted to bet or fight. Soon, the hanging ladder stopped on the 39th floor, and Xiao Yingluo pulled Jiang Tian into a large hall. This was the headquarters of the Jade Well firm. The little girl put her delicate hands behind her back, looked left and right, and shouted, "Sister Yunxiu, where are you? Yingluo is here to see you." "Yingluo, I heard the report that you killed someone outside. You must have caused trouble again, right?" A woman in snow-white clothes with a gentle face walked out from the inner room and said in a displeased tone. As soon as this woman came out, the whole hall lit up, and even the luminous pearls inlaid on the roof were overshadowed. She had bright eyes and white teeth, a beautiful face, elegant manners, and elegant manners. Her white clothes were spotless, and she was like a fairy in the mortal world, untainted and untainted. "Sister Xiu, I'm about to be bullied to death. Not only are you not going to uphold justice for me, you're even mocking me like this." Xiao Yingluo pouted coquettishly, but she had already flown over like a swallow returning to the forest. She jumped up and wrapped her legs around Chu Yunxiu's waist. She rubbed her head against Chu Yunxiu's neck like a spoiled child. This girl is already 16 years old. She can get married, but she's still acting like a wild child. Chu Yunxiu smiled and patted Xiao Yingluo's shoulder. "I wonder which young master will take a fancy to you in the future. What if I can't get married?" "Ah, sister, you smell so good." Xiao Yingluo sniffed her neck greedily. Chu Yunxiu's beautiful eyes landed on Jiang Tian. She blushed slightly and said, "Come down quickly. There are guests here." Xiao Yingluo jumped down and pulled Jiang Tian's hand forward. "Immortal Master Jiang, this is Chu Yunxiu, Peak Master Chu's daughter. She's also my good sister. It's her favorite life-type magic tool." "Sister Xiu, this is Immortal Master Jiang. He's at least in the foundation establishment stage. He's definitely a young talent. In Qingyang town, he killed dozens of dogs and saved our family. He's really a hero. Immortal Master Jiang's cultivation is actually so powerful." Chu Yunxiu was slightly stunned. Her clear eyes looked up and down at Jiang Tian in disbelief. She was famous on the Tianjiao list. In the whole Heavenly Star small world, she was also an outstanding figure of the younger generation. She controlled the famous Jade Well Trading Company and had a wide range of friends. Tianjiao, son of the Peak Master, Taoist, son of the City Lord, core disciples of large sections. She knew a lot of people, but she had never seen a person like Jiang Tian. Although Xiao Yingluo was still young, she was very sensible and considered a lot for Jiang Tian. She smiled and said, "Sister Xiu, your Jade Well Trading Company and the entire Jade Well Peak are in need of people. With Immortal Master Jiang's ability, he can at least be a hall master or an elder, or be a great consecrator in the peak. In this way, Immortal Master Jiang will have a place to stay, and our strength will also be strengthened. Isn't it the best of both worlds?" Chu Yunxiu looked at Jiang Tian with her beautiful eyes. She bowed slightly and said with a smile, "Immortal Master Jiang, you're in the foundation establishment stage? Which famous sect or family do you come from?" The first level of the foundation establishment stage. Jiang Tian said with a calm face. I'm from the other side of the starry sky. I'm the leader of a small sect on Earth. I see. Chu Yunxiu couldn't believe it and showed a bit of surprise. Suddenly, she looked at Jiang Tian with a faint smile and said, Yingluo, you go out first. I'll discuss his position with Mr. Jiang. Oh, you guys take your time. I'm going out. Xiao Yingluo looked depressed and felt abandoned, but she still went out obediently. Earth is a wasteland world with thin spiritual energy. People there are called abandoned people of the gods. It's impossible for them to reach the foundation establishment stage. After Xiao Yingluo left, Chu Yunxiu raised her hand and set up a soundproof restriction. Then she said coldly, What's your intention for lying to my sister like this? Is the first level of the foundation establishment stage that great in your eyes? Do I have to lie? Jiang Tian stood with his hands behind his back. His face was calm as he said disdainfully, even if a golden core master is here, even if the master of the heavenly star palace is here, I can kill him with a raise of my hand. Jiang Tian had returned after 10,000 years of cultivation. In terms of cultivation techniques, combat experience, and understanding of cultivation, he was far superior to his peers. Moreover, he had achieved great success in the Gingjin divine body. With the advantage of his physique, his combat power was far beyond his cultivation level. He could even kill a golden core master. Shameless boasting. You're ignorant and fearless. Chu Yunxiu's face was full of sarcasm. Cultivation levels were strict and could not be crossed. The difference between the foundation establishment stage and the golden core stage was like heaven and earth. A first level of the foundation establishment stage facing a golden core master was like a 3-year-old baby facing a strong man. He could not withstand a single blow. Anyone who had a bit of common sense about cultivation wouldn't be so arrogant. This boy was so ignorant that he was obviously a liar. Suddenly, Chu Yunxiu thought of something, and her face suddenly became cold and severe. In an instant, the gentleness and elegance on her body suddenly disappeared. Her whole person was like an unsheathed sword, incomparably sharp. At this time, her monstrous sternness as a peerless genius was revealed. Her eyes were as cold as knives, and she said coldly, Let me remind you. Although Yingluo and I are not related by blood, we've known each other since childhood and are like sisters. I will definitely protect her. Don't even think about humiliating her. What are you thinking? She and I only met by chance. Besides, she's only 16 years old, still a child. Jiang Tian was stunned for a moment, then he frowned. I will be the only daughter of the Jade Well Peak's master in the future, and I will marry the young master of the Golden Pine Peak, Jiang Yunhe. In the future, I will definitely be the master of the Jade Well Peak and the wife of the Golden Pine Peak's master. Chu Yunxiu lifted her jade-white chin and said proudly, If you marry Xiao Yingluo, then you will be my brother-in-law in the future. At that time, you will receive great benefits and naturally receive my protection. Otherwise, why are you trying to curry favor for no reason? I'm trying to curry favor for no reason? Jiang Tian did not know whether to laugh or cry. Weren't you trying to curry favor by killing those patrolling dogs? Chu Yunxiu seemed to have seen through Jiang Tian's cunning plot and said disdainfully, Don't be delusional. Don't be delusional. For thousands of years, the ants of Earth were only qualified to be slaves here. And those who are worthy of my sister have to be the young master of the peak, the son of the city lord, or the elite disciple of that big sect, or the top 100 masters on the prodigy list. You really think too highly of yourself. You're underestimating my ability too much. Jiang Tian flung his sleeves and laughed loudly. Not to mention a mere Jade Well Peak, even if it's the entire Demon Cave Mountain, even if it's the Heavenly Astral Palace, even if it's this Heavenly Astral Dimensional Realm, even if it's the entire Hidden Sect world, how could it be in my eyes? I, Kong Teichu, have been undefeated all my life and have never been weaker than anyone. Why would I need your protection? Chu Yunxiu looked coldly at Jiang Tian, as if looking down on an ant, and did not say a word. She was too lazy to say anything else. As the eldest miss of the Jade Well Peak and the owner of the Jade Well Trading Company, she controlled countless resources and was extremely talented. She only reached the first level of foundation establishment with the guidance of many famous masters. If Jiang Tian really came from the Earth realm, how could he have reached the foundation building realm? Such an ant from the wasteland world, born lowly and weak, without any inheritance or foundation, how could he be qualified to look down on heroes and boast so shamelessly? That's all we have to say. Goodbye. Jiang Tian couldn't be bothered to speak any more nonsense, flicking his sleeves and leaving. Where are you going? Chu Yunxiu asked. This world is so vast that I can roam freely. Can I live if I don't live under the roof of your Jade Well Peak? Jiang Tian strode away without looking back. His expression was arrogant and he sneered coldly. Reckless thing, you don't know how dangerous this world is. When you're badly injured by the cruel reality, you'll definitely come and beg me pitifully. At that time, I'll humiliate you and let you know the consequences of ignoring my warnings. Being ignored by Jiang Tian like this, Chu Yunxiu was both embarrassed and angry. She snorted and said disdainfully. Chapter 892. Jiang Tian couldn't be bothered and strode out the door. Qiao Beishan, the stinky monkey Yi Tianren, and the old dragon were all waiting for him. Qiao Yingluo hurried forward, her face full of anticipation. Big brother Jiang, how was your talk with Sister Xiu? It was fine. Jiang Tian didn't mention the situation just now, lest it add to the little girl's worries. He patted her head and said gently, but I want to hunt some demon beasts for cultivation resources. Are you willing to come along? This is Sister Xiu's test for you, isn't it? Beside him, Qiao Yingluo smiled innocently. Jade Well Peak's test is very strict. You have to complete some missions to be qualified to join. Although Sister Xiu and I have known each other since we were young, she's a strict and old-fashioned person. I'm afraid she won't open the back door for you. But it doesn't matter. As long as we complete the mission, you'll have a place when you return. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and didn't comment. His vision wasn't limited to Jade Well Peak at all. His goal was to defeat the Heavenly Palace and control this subdimension. However, this place was rich in cultivation resources. Jiang Tian didn't need to kill his way to their door now. It wasn't a bad idea to find some cultivation resources to improve his cultivation first. Immortal Master Jiang, it's very simple to complete the mission. There's a mission hall in Demon Cave Mountain. Qiao Beishan said. The mission hall regularly publishes bounty missions. There's a brief introduction of the demon beasts, their location, cultivation level, attack power, and so on. Many demon beasts are not only powerful in battle, but also have intelligence and dermic powers. They can even set up concealment arrays to avoid the divine senses of golden core cultivators. Let alone kill them, they might not even be able to find them. But it's different with the mission hall. We just need to follow the map. Also, I heard that a lot of demon beasts have appeared recently. The rewards must be very generous. The stinky monkey rubbed his hands. But then I'll go now. Jiang Tian nodded. I'll go too. The Qiao brothers and the stinky monkey said almost simultaneously. The few of them left the Jade Well Mountain and rode on a white gigantic back eagle together, flying towards a mountain more than 30 li away. This mountain peak was called the Great Yang Peak, and there was a continuous stretch of palaces on top of it. Other than the core mission hall, there were also many taverns, casinos, markets, and even brothels. From time to time, there would be cultivators riding falcons, red-crowned cranes, and so on. There were also some foundation establishment cultivators riding on flying swords. Spring Fragrance Brothel. The vermilion door was made of green bricks and tiles, and a red light hung high above. Upstairs, an enchanting woman stuck half of her body out and waved a red handkerchief. She laughed tenderly and said, "Little brother, come up and play." There were also some women hugging Pipa as they leaned against the window. Half of their faces were covered as they gently played the pipa. What are we playing? City people are so strange. They're so passionate. I'm not used to it. Xiao Beishan was confused. Xiao Yingluo blushed and glanced at Jiang Tian. She saw that Jiang Tian's face was as calm as still water and did not move. The little girl sighed in her heart. Immortal Master Jiang was a person who had achieved Tao and was different from ordinary people. The stinky monkey only looked up at the enchanting woman, but his soul seemed to have left his body. His eyes were dull, and he was drooling like a fly rubbing its hands. He smiled and said, "Since they're so passionate, it must be fun. When I finish the mission and get a lot of crystals, I'll go and play with them. I'll be rich." Stinky monkey, you've learned bad things. Xiao Yingluo's face turned even redder. She pulled the stinky monkey's ear and said coquettishly, "Those women have all cultivated the fox seduction technique. Not only will they empty your wallet, but they'll also empty your body." The stinky monkey felt pain, and his eyes instantly became clear. He said weakly, "What are you thinking? I just wanted to wash my feet." The gigantic back eagle was in front of the mission hall. Everyone got off the eagle and went to the mission hall. There was a stream of people and it was very lively. Many cultivators and experts had gathered. Some of them were wearing animal skin hunting clothes and carrying long swords. They were rough and powerful. Some were wearing Taoist robes and holding horsetail whisks. Their auras were otherworldly. Some were wearing black masks and looked like hibernating poisonous snakes. Their temperaments were obscure and cold. Some received hunting missions, some paid for missions, and some formed groups of 3 or 5 to invite each other to form a team. These missions are jointly issued by the main forces of the Demon Cave Mountain. There will be 5 crystals as a reward. Although it was Xiao Yingluo's first time here, she had heard a lot of information about this place. She was excited, but then she rolled her eyes at the stinky monkey. Some cultivators who received a lot of rewards are stupid because they have too much money. They go around and give money to those foxes. The stinky monkey said gloomily, "Don't mention this, I was just thinking about it." So the so-called mission is to pay crystals in exchange for a demon beast distribution map. Xiao Beishan looked at the introduction hanging on the wall and touched his chin. Moreover, this mission is quite expensive. The lowest level 1-star mission requires 100,000 spar. Little brother, are you new to the Demon Cave Mountain? Is there anything I can help with? At this time, a young man dressed as a waiter came over and asked with a smile. Yes, I just joined the Jadewell Peak. Xiao Beishan returned the greeting with a smile. Little brother, the mission hall is private. Of course, it has to make money. The waiter said with a smile. It's very simple to issue missions. It can be completely free, but the key is that we provide detailed information. For example, the number of demonic beasts, their level of combat strength, their division, habits, weaknesses, physical condition, whether they have been injured, and so on. This information is very useful to cultivators and can greatly increase the success rate of hunting. We bought this information from cultivators who have fought with the demons at a high price. It's not like we don't have any capital, so of course we have to make money. I see. This means that even if we can't kill the demon beast, as long as we can get useful information, we can exchange it for money? Xiao Beishan asked. That's right. The waiter smiled. Moreover, according to the characteristics of the demon beast, the mission hall has also given suggestions for forming teams. For example, the ratio of meat shield type, healing type, battle type, divine ability type, close combat type, and long-range attack type cultivators, and even the best cultivation level is clearly stated. Our service can be said to be very good. So, your money is well spent. 100,000 low-grade crystals, that's too expensive. Xiao Beishan was speechless and felt the pinch. All his assets added together were not that much. He had spent so much money without even seeing the demon beast. It was really too depressing. Don't worry about that, we also provide loan services. The waiter smiled and said, You only need to mortgage your sex token here, and you will be able to obtain a low-interest loan. For example, you can take a 1-star mission. Spend 100,000 crystals, and 10 days later, you only need to pay us 11,000 crystals. But how much is the reward for a 1-star mission? 1 million. You'll earn almost 10 times. That's not bad. Xiao Beishan's eyes lit up. He was very tempted. Isn't that so? Demon Cave Mountain is known as the adventurer's paradise. So many people have made a fortune here. Countless tycoons and millionaires have been born here. The waiter smiled and bewitched. What if I fail the mission and can't pay back the loan? The stinky monkey rolled his eyes and had the idea of fleecing. Those who fleeced are all dead. Xiao Yingluo pouted and smiled. Do you think they're kind people who eat people without spitting out the bones? It said that 3 years ago, a foundation establishment cultivator borrowed money to take a 3-star mission. In the end, the mission failed and he was seriously injured. They directly took away his wife and daughter and put them under house arrest. This cultivator was forced to help them kill demon beasts for 3 years, and he's still killing them now. Little girl, don't talk nonsense. The waiter said seriously. We're doing business, after all, we can't lose money. What house arrest? That cultivator's wife and daughter were treated like guests by us and didn't suffer at all. Immortal Master Jiang, what mission should we take? The stinky monkey's heart was in a mess. He couldn't make up his mind with high risks and high rewards. Take the 10-star mission, Blackwater Lake Hunt. Jiang Tian raised his hand and pointed as he slowly said. As soon as those words were spoken, the crowd became solemn. Everyone looked at Jiang Tian with faces full of disbelief. Then, there was a buzz, like a group of flies being startled, and everyone whispered to each other. Blackwater Lake Hunt, 10-star mission. It said that there are 4 demon beasts with Foundation Establishment combat power guarding it. I heard that some time ago, a 3rd-level Foundation Establishment elder of Jinsong Peak, Jiang Hailang, died there. He was eaten by the blue-eyed toad until only half of his body was left. There's such a thing. The peak master of Jinsong Peak, Jiang Haishan, personally took action and fought with the demon beasts for 6 hours. He didn't gain the slightest advantage, and I heard that he was seriously injured. When he returned to the peak, he ordered that from now on, all disciples have to take a detour. The Blackwater Lake is located at the foot of Jinsong Peak. Those toads often jump up and eat the people of Jinsong Peak, causing them to have to go in and out from the back door. Sigh, Jiang Shanhai has been wise all his life, but he's afraid of being blocked by a few toads. Speaking of which, it's really depressing. You can't say that the people of Jiang Shanhai are cowards. Those blue-eyed toads have very powerful dermic powers. If you go over, you'll die in minutes. That's right. I heard from my ancestors that the biggest blue-eyed toad was the Mount of the Great Demon, Bai Zhe, a few hundred years ago. The Blackwater Lake belongs to the territory of the Great Demon, Bai Zhe. Who dares to provoke it? If it alarms the Great Demon, Bai Zhe, it'll be over. For a moment, everyone thought that Jiang Tian was a shameless idiot who actually dared to challenge the Blackwater Lake's hunting mission. Chapter 893. Seeing that Jiang Tian had chosen this mission, the shop assistant was also shocked. Then he smiled bitterly. Little brother, let me remind you that this mission can only be completed by a mid-stage Foundation Establishment cultivator. In Demon Cave Mountain, this mission is called an impossible mission. It's very dangerous. I know. Jiang Tian said calmly. Immortal Master Jiang, this mission costs 1,000,005 essence crystals. We don't have that much money. Xiao Beishan pulled Jiang Tian to the side and said awkwardly. You can borrow it. The shop assistant came over like a ghost and said with a smile. How about this? We don't need to buy their information. We can just kill them. Jiang Tian said indifferently. How can we do that? Immortal Master Jiang, you must be careful. The stinky monkey was so scared that he almost jumped up. At this moment, the shop assistant came over and smiled. I'm afraid you'll be eaten alive if you try to sneak in without knowing anything. Besides, if you don't have enough money to buy the information, you won't be able to accept the mission. Even if you kill those blue-eyed toads, you won't be able to exchange them for the mission reward. That's 10,000,005 essence crystals. Huh, how do you know the uses of those blue-eyed toads? If I kill them and refine them into pills, I'll get more than 10 million 5 essence crystals. Jiang Tian glanced at him lazily and sneered. Good words can't persuade a damned fool. Since you want to die, I won't stop you. The shop assistant flicked his sleeves and left. Immortal Master Jiang, are we really going? The stinky monkey was bewildered. This matter was too dangerous. Fellow Taoist Jiang, what you said makes sense. Why spend 1 million 5 essence crystals to buy information? With me here, there's no need at all. At this moment, a hearty laugh sounded. A cultivator in a dirty Taoist robe walked over with a majestic gait. He carried a huge sword on his back and a small pouch on his waist. His appearance was strange, and he had horns on his head. His mouth was wide like a shark's, and his face was as dark as charcoal. He had a large beard that was hard and thick, and each strand was as stiff as a steel brush. He looked extraordinarily valiant and domineering. He was very rough and heroic, just like Yan Qixia in Yashaoqian. Giant sword sect cultivator. And there are 5 huge swords in his chest. He's an elder. You're right. This is the elder of the giant sword sect, one of the 9 sects, Taoist graphite. 4th level of foundation establishment. That's right. This person is very powerful. He is of the same generation as the Heavenly Star Palace's palace master, Heaven and Earth Taoist, Li Longyuan. Seeing this, everyone's eyes were filled with dread. They opened up a path for Taoist graphite to pass. Jiang Tian stopped, glanced at him, and said, Fellow Taoist, what advice do you have for me? Actually, Grandpa Taoist has also accepted a mission to kill that blue-eyed toad, but I need a few companions. Taoist graphite said haughtily, Why don't we team up? After this is done, I'll give you 1 million 5 essence crystals. Grandpa Taoist is at the 4th level of foundation establishment. I'm confident that I can kill those toads. You just need to take care of my food and lodging for a few days and help me kill a few small monsters. If you're sensible and obedient, I'll bring you into the giant sword sect. I'll personally guide you on the supreme sword path. Some people looked at Jiang Tian with envy, whispering to each other and discussing spiritedly. This is a sure-win deal, that's right. What a great opportunity! I can train with Graphite Immortal Master and even have the chance to become his disciple. After Taoist Graphite finished speaking, he stood there arrogantly, as if waiting for Jiang Tian to kowtow and express his gratitude. Taoist Master Jiang, accept it. What a good opportunity! The stinky monkey winked. That's the giant sword sect. Even Xiao Yingluo was excited. The giant sword sect, one of the 9 sects, was second only to the Heavenly Star Palace. If they could become a disciple, it would be a great opportunity. However, Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, I'm sorry. I'm not interested. Find someone else. With that, he walked away. Taoist Master Jiang, why don't you reconsider? Xiao Yingluo and the others were stunned. They couldn't believe it and didn't understand, but they still followed him. Grandpa Taoist gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Taoist Graphite's face turned cold. He flicked his sleeves and said disdainfully, You're just a few insignificant martial artists. How dare you challenge the Blackwater Lake hunting mission? You're courting death. Taoist Master Jiang, why didn't you agree? Xiao Yingluo asked, puzzled. Although Qiao Beishan and the stinky monkey didn't say it explicitly, their faces were full of regret and disappointment. They seemed to have some resentment towards Jiang Tian. According to him, he clearly has the ability to complete the mission alone. Why did he bring us along? Is there such a good thing in the world? Jiang Tian asked. You mean? Xiao Yingluo frowned. Also, he's an elder of the giant sword sect. Why didn't he have any disciples accompanying him? Jiang Tian asked again. Well, maybe he likes to be free and didn't bring any disciples. Xiao Yingluo thought for a while and said, I heard that although his cultivation is strong, it seems that all his disciples have died. The stinky monkey suddenly said. According to my guess, this person likes to use his teammates as bait or meat shields. Jiang Tian said lightly, I just found out that the cloth bag at his waist smelled of blue magpie grass. Oh, blue magpie grass? It said that it's specially used to control toads. You'll collapse after eating it. The stinky monkey's cultivation was low, but he was very proficient in all kinds of poisons. I understand now. Xiao Yingluo slapped her thigh and exclaimed. That blue-eyed toad is very intelligent. If Taoist graphite hastily threw out the blue magpie grass to poison it, the blue-eyed toad wouldn't eat it. So, he would let us bring the blue magpie grass and let the blue-eyed toad eat us while swallowing the blue magpie grass. Then he could. Xiao Yingluo was so shocked that her face turned pale. She said in a trembling voice, looking at his heroic and detached appearance, I thought he was a Taoist master. I never expected him to be so vicious. The reason why I don't have any disciples is probably related to this, Jiang Tian said lightly. Using disciples as bait, isn't that a little too despicable? Yi Dunren, who had been silent, suddenly frowned. This is the cultivation world. Cruel and heartless. The so-called immortals don't have much higher moral standards. They're even more despicable. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed with a trace of vicissitudes. He shook his head and sighed. Jiang Tian had cultivated for 10,000 years and had seen many cultivation civilizations. He had also seen all kinds of cultivators. There were many who would rather die than themselves. There were countless cultivators who would shift the blame to others. Moreover, in battle, many cultivators loved to deceive the people closest to them. It was often the most common situation for a master to cheat a disciple and a disciple to cheat a master. Because the other party was unguarded, the success rate was the highest. There were also those who used the other party as a furnace and used them to refine pills. It could be said to be inhumane. Are we going to the Blackwater Lake now? Xiao Yingluo asked. No. There's no hurry, we still need to buy a few things. Jiang Tian said lightly, I'm afraid we won't have time until tomorrow. They returned to Jade Well Peak. It was already very late, so they settled down first. Chu Yunxiu was extremely disgusted with Jiang Tian and assigned him a small and airless guest room. The people living next to it were all handymen, cooks, and the like. This woman is too much. Yi Dunren frowned and was about to flare up. Sister Xiu, what's the matter, I'll ask. Xiao Yingluo was also very dissatisfied and wanted to reason with her. Forget it. Rest early. But Jiang Tian didn't care. He washed up hastily and rested for the night. The next morning, Jiang Tian ate a simple meal and immediately brought a few people to the Jade Well Trading Company. Mr. Jiang, I heard from the mission hall that you were going to the Blackwater Lake to hunt blue-eyed toads. Why are you back? Coincidentally, Chu Yunxiu was here to inspect and check the accounts. When she saw Jiang Tian, she immediately sneered and asked. Yesterday, she deliberately arranged Jiang Tian to stay at the handyman disciple's residence, but he didn't have the slightest reaction. The strong cultivators were all arrogant and couldn't be offended. How could they be as easy to bully as Jiang Tian? It could be seen that this person was simply a waste. The news spread so quickly? Maybe she deliberately inquired about him. Jiang Tian muttered secretly. Do you have butterfly-leafed mugwort, purple-striped radish vine, and purple toad oil? Jiang Tian couldn't be bothered with her and asked a shop assistant. Purple toad oil is available. But purple-striped radish vine and butterfly-leafed mugwort can be seen everywhere. They're very cheap, so we don't sell them. You can just go outside and find some. The little shop assistant said lazily. Immortal Master Jiang, what do you want these for? Do you want to use them to kill blue-eyed toads? Chu Yunxiu said mockingly. Jiang Tian ignored her and said, Give us a big jar of purple toad oil. Bashan, you pay for it. With that he walked out quickly. Brother Jiangteng, wait for me. Xiao Yingluo originally wanted to talk to Chu Yunxiu about Jiang Tian, but seeing Jiang Tian leave in a hurry, she could only stomp her feet and follow him out. This girl has been bewitched by the devil. She must be cheated of money and sex. To kill blue-eyed toads, is she playing house? Looking at Xiao Yingluo's back, Chu Yunxiu snorted disdainfully. Chapter 894. At this time, Jiang Tian had already come to a short mountain at the foot of Jade Well Peak. He used his divine senses to search for butterfly-leafed mugwort and purple-striped wisteria. However, the good thing was that there was indeed a lot of butterfly-leafed mugwort and purple-striped wisteria. Jiang Tian quickly found a large pile. At this time, Qiao Beishan also rushed over with a bucket full of purple toad oil and shouted, "Brother Jiang, I bought it. This thing only costs 10 crystals. Can it be used to kill blue-eyed toads?" Blue-eyed toads like to live in places where mosquito beasts live. This thing is used to kill mosquito beasts, Jiang Tian said. Once those mosquito beasts are nourished by that spiritual item and mutated, I'm afraid they'll be even more terrifying than the blue-eyed toads. And there are so many of them that we can't kill them all. We can only use the butterfly-leafed mugwort's smoke screen to block them. Mosquito beasts? What's that? Xiao Yingluo and the rest were confused. They had never heard of it. Jiang Tian just smiled and couldn't be bothered to explain. In fact, Jiang Tian's goal wasn't the blue-eyed toads at all, but something more important. Something that gave birth to a super demon beast like the blue-eyed toads. But this knowledge was too ancient and mysterious. Xiao Yingluo and the rest probably couldn't understand it at all. "Little brother, you're going to kill the blue-eyed toads?" At this time, a cold voice suddenly sounded, and a figure leaped over like a light bird. This woman was wearing a moon-white Taoist robe. Her chest was high, her waist was slender, and her figure was graceful. She came over gracefully like a spring flower shining on water. Only a layer of gauze covered her face, and her true face couldn't be seen. Jiang Tian nodded. "Then why don't you team up with us?" The woman said coldly. "This time, we have many prodigies, and the reward is generous." "Sure." The stinky monkey immediately jumped up. Although this woman's face was covered by a white gauze, just by the white skin and sharp chin exposed, one could tell that she was definitely a stunning beauty. Jiang Tian glared at the stinky monkey. The latter stuck out his tongue. Jiang Tian did not reply. He found a wooden stick and tied the butterfly-leafed mugwort onto it with purple-striped wisteria. He soaked it in purple toad oil for a while before handing it over. "Since you look good, I'll sell it to you at a cheap price. If you can stop the mosquito beasts, just give me 100,000 low-grade 5 crystal stones." These days, Xiao Yingluo was the one paying for all the food and entertainment. Although Jiang Tian was carefree and unrestrained, he still felt that it was inconvenient sometimes. It was better to earn some money. As the name implied, the purple toad oil was extracted from the corpse oil of a type of purple toad that was roasted to a crisp. It also contained numerous toxins and had a fishy and pungent smell. "What are you doing?" The masked woman immediately retreated a few steps. When she recalled Jiang Tian's words, she covered her mouth and nose with her fair and delicate hands and teased, "You greedy thief, these things only add up to a few crystal stones. You want to sell them to me for 100,000 crystal stones? Do you think I'm a fool? Brother Jiang Tian, this woman is not easy to fool. We have to find someone like my brother." Xiao Yingluo tugged at Jiang Tian's sleeve and whispered, "Sister, your brother, do I look stupid?" Qiao Beishan was so depressed that he stomped his feet. Jiang Tian said calmly, "You're such a beautiful fairy. If you want to kill the blue-eyed toads, you'll definitely encounter the mosquito beasts. Without this thing, you'll definitely be at a disadvantage. You'll be sucked until you're all skin and bones. Then, you won't be beautiful anymore." Although the masked woman felt that Jiang Tian was lying to her, she couldn't help but feel a little happy when Jiang Tian praised her beauty. She snorted and smiled faintly. "All right, greedy little liar, don't try to cheat me. You're so young and so handsome. Instead of walking the right path, you want to cheat me. Be careful or I'll spank you. Be careful or I'll spank you." This was Qing'er's favorite catchphrase. Her voice was soft and somewhat similar to Qing'er's. Jiang Tian was stunned for a moment, and his eyes revealed deep longing and depression. The masked beauty saw that Jiang Tian's clothes were strange and exposed his arms and legs. He must be a low-level errand boy who didn't even have suitable clothes and looked like a fool. She couldn't help but pity him. She smiled bitterly and said, Look at how poorly you're dressed. You must be a child from a poor family. I'll give you some crystals. Hurry up and go home." With that, she reached out and grabbed Jiang Tian's hand. She slapped a bag of 5 essence crystals into Jiang Tian's hand and floated away. Damn, although I didn't succeed, being treated as a beggar is still a source of income. It's easy to earn money outside. Smelly Monkey opened the bag and smiled with exultation. This is a mid-grade 5 essence crystal. One is equivalent to 100 low-grade 5 essence crystal. There are dozens of them, which is equivalent to a few thousand crystals. It seems that we're not the only ones who want to kill the blue-eyed toads, Yinanren said worriedly. Also, that woman's aura was so strong. I'm afraid she's at the foundation establishment level. Foundation establishment level. That means she can be on the prodigy roll. Qiao Beishan and the other 2 exclaimed. Look at her Taoist robe. She should be from the Heartless sect. She can't be Fairy Miao Yi. She's my idol, Qiao Yingluo said with a look of fascination. Those who reached the foundation establishment level before the age of 30 were all prodigies. In the Heavenly Star Small World, there was a prodigy roll. Those who could be on it were all amazing people. And Fairy Miao Yi was ranked 5th on the prodigy roll. There were only a few people in front of him, including the Daozi of Qin Xian. Who cares? Anyway, other than us, no one can kill the blue-eyed toads. Jiang Tian smiled disdainfully and continued to look for butterfly-leafed mugwort and purple-striped wisteria to make more torches. Seeing that Jiang Tian's job was very simple, Qiao Yingluo thought for a while and returned to Yujing Peak to find Chu Yunxiu. Sister Yunxiu, Brother Jiang is really amazing. Can you arrange a better job for him? Qiao Yingluo begged. It's too unfair for him to live in such a bad place. Don't worry, being a servant disciple is only temporary. I'll arrange a suitable position for him, Chu Yunxiu said. Alright. Qiao Yingluo had no choice. Do you like him? Chu Yunxiu suddenly asked. No way. Are you kidding me? I treat him as an elder and respect him as a big brother. Qiao Yingluo averted her eyes and blushed. You have to choose carefully. Those from Earth are all weak. They're not worthy of you. Chu Yunxiu smiled. I think Huang Zhizhong, the son of Hall Master Huang Biao, is very good. He's now a senior shopkeeper and will be a hall master in 10 years. I still have things to do, I'll leave first. Qiao Yingluo fled. What are you going to do? Are you really going to hunt blue-eyed toads? Chu Yunxiu asked with a smile but didn't stop her. In her opinion, Jiang Tian was wandering around just to avoid her, afraid that she would expose his true colors. Even if Jiang Tian really went to the Blackwater Lake, he would probably be defeated in minutes. This would also let Qiao Yingluo see his true colors. The starry sky was dark and miasma filled the sky. That night, Jiang Tian and the others, who were fully prepared, rode a white giant back eagle and flew in the direction of the Blackwater Lake under the faint sky. Although they had to bypass some spiritual tides, thunder and lightning storms, and the nests of demon beasts and birds. But the Blackwater Lake was only a few dozen kilometers away from Yujing Peak, and the giant back eagle was extremely fast. So, it only took them 2 hours to arrive. At the foot of Jinsong Peak, there was a lake with a radius of 20 kilometers, and the black lake water was as thick as ink. The lake water had a demonic smell, and from time to time, there were bursts of black gas rising into the sky, and the stench was unpleasant. The surrounding trees not only didn't wither, but were even more exuberant. They were much taller than ordinary trees, but there was a bit of evil in them. In the dim light, huge branches stretched to the sky like a devil's palm, covering the sky and the sun. Sure enough, it was as Yi Tianren had guessed. There were already a lot of people gathered here. There were hundreds of cultivators and warriors. The cultivators were basically at the Qi refinement level, while the warriors were basically at the transformative realm or even the divine realm. There were monks, Taoists, and laymen. They were in groups of 3 or 5, each occupying a position, sitting or standing by the bonfire. It seemed that they came from different sects and forces. Boom! Jiang Tian's divine sense pushed out like a tide and instantly covered the entire Blackwater Lake. He immediately determined the best position, raised his hand, and pointed. "Land there!" The giant back eagle landed on the ground. After they landed, they found that the surroundings were covered in black mud, and there were many human and demon beast skeletons. It was a ghastly sight. Fortunately, Jiang Tian and the others landed on a meadow, so it wasn't so dirty. Were these killed by those blue-eyed toads? Xiao Yingluo frowned, her eyes full of fear. Just a few toads, what's there to be afraid of? Can you kill them with a raise of your hand? Jiang Tian smiled indifferently. He said that the blue-eyed toads are toads that can be killed with a raise of his hand? Oh my god, that's a demon beast in the late Foundation establishment stage. Maybe it has already formed a demon core. Shameless boasting, the ignorant are fearless. They're just a few warriors. They're short-sighted and don't know the horror of the blue-eyed toads. As soon as this remark came out, many cultivators looked at Jiang Tian as if they were looking at a lunatic, and some even sneered. "Bai Yun, go outside and wait for us. When you hear my whistle, come and greet us immediately." Seeing that Jiang Tian was so calm, Xiao Yingluo felt a little relieved and patted the giant back eagle's head. The giant back eagle had gained some intelligence. It nodded and let out a cry before flying off into the distance. "Immortal Master Jiang, do you really have the confidence to kill these toads? Have you killed them before?" The stinky monkey was a little worried. "Yes, and I've killed a lot of them. Once this thing finds its Mingmen, it can even kill a warrior." "Wait, just listen to my command." Jiang Tian smiled indifferently. This blue-eyed toad was very common in the cultivation world. In fact, it was more accurate to call it a three-eyed toad. Its third eye was on the top of its head and was usually closed. It would only open when its body was about to explode. But this third eye was also where its Mingmen was. The blue-eyed toad was covered in poisonous lumps all over its body and was indestructible. If one only relied on brute force to kill a third-level Foundation establishment toad, it would probably take a cultivator in the late Foundation establishment stage. But as long as they found its Mingmen, they would be able to kill even Xiao Yingluo. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.